interesting. If you want to ask me, I don't know. If you don't want to ask me, it gets a little bit more interesting. It does. Can't say it's the best.
That's one way to say it. Yeah. Oh, man. My name is Mr. Henry. It is Voluntary Tuesday. Sherry Voluntary sitting next to me.
What?
Yeah, that's right. That's the best way to do it. What? How you doing this morning?
I am magnificent.
Oh,
but
nice.
You already knew that.
She got a new hair color going. I think it looks great.
I did too.
Yeah.
It's
You
really
guys
funky.
are really nice.
No, it's cool. I think it looks good with your complexion. I know you're freaking out because it's dramatic. And of course, whenever you have a dramatic new haircut or hair color.
I look like Grimace from the
not
Ronald McDonald.
No, not at all.
What?
Purple.
No.
I think it's awesome.
All right. Thank
Funky.
you. You guys are too nice.
Repeat that word real quick, Russ, so they know what you said.
Funky.
Yeah, all right, good.
Oh, Lord.
Well, we were talking about when people think this is a family program here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. All right.
It is Voluntary Tuesday. We have a couple guests lined up. We also, prolonged interview from his security. It's actually going to be a cool segment, y'all. I'm saying I'm
excited.
This company offers so much stuff. I can't even fit it in half the time when I'm going to their website to tell you everything they offer.
Really?
It's going to be a really cool conversation about technology-driven stuff, home protection, what they can offer. I mean, it's going to be good stuff. We also have.
I think the doorbell cameras are cool.
Doorbell cameras.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, I want
Do
one
you
of
know
those.
that app? You can go to the app and you can see around your area what's going on. We were watching it when it got kind of.
I know that's the only thing.
Creepy a little. You can't stay on it too long.
Live in fear.
Because then you're just peeping out your windows
That's what happens to me when I watch too much Dateline.
Yeah, exactly.
I start
They're
every
breaking
noise.
into cars and taking Amazon packages off your door and
Yep, it's scary.
It's a little creepy.
Don't be scared.
Have you seen this video? I think it's for Ring or one of these people or something, and there's a guy that's working out at some gym, and people that are up there about to break into his house, and I swear the guy's got to be 4'9", 110 pounds, soaking wet, and get away from my house. Have you seen this? No? It's the least convincing commercial I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
What's it for?
It's for one of those Ring doorbell things.
Oh, is it?
One of those Ring cameras. Yeah, but the guy yells off, allegedly yells off to would-be criminals from his property. Get out of here type thing, yeah. Anyways.
Oh, yeah. Because that works every time.
Well, that's the thing. As long as you can't see the guy and notice that he's 4'9", I'm sure they would have shown. If he opens the door and says, get off my property. Nah, we're going to stick around. Hey, we also have an incredible guest speaking about the situation regarding Schaeffer Cox.
Yes.
Schaeffer's, right? Yeah?
Schaeffer, yes.
Now, this is a situation that I knew almost nothing about. Not even almost nothing. I knew nothing about it prior to Richard bringing it to my attention almost 2 or 3 months ago. We've been having casual back and forth conversations. What do you think about this now? Did we research a little bit more? You actually knew a little bit more about this than I did, though, right?
It's known in libertarian circles for sure.
He's a libertarian guy, right?
Yes, in many ways.
Right.
I don't want to say what, label somebody what they're not, but he was definitely a constitutional conservative all the way.
Yeah.
And a libertarian, if you ask me, for the most part. So.
Oh, to just give you a quick brief on what this guy's story is, and depending on which website you go to, you're probably going to hear a different version of this. If you hit up Wikipedia or hit up any coverage in Alaska, you're going to hear a dramatically different story than what you're going to hear this morning. And fill in the blanks where I get this wrong, Sherry, but from what I understand, this guy started a militia, was a big advocate for something called the Articles of Freedom, basically holding federal government accountable for literally everything.
Imagine that.
Yeah, living in Alaska, allegedly still one of the more libertarian states, if you will.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
Yeah. There's a lot of libertarian. The people, not necessarily the government there, but the people are definitely.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we went to Alaska one time for one of our little Christmas vacations. Coming from Tennessee, I thought I knew what redneck was, bro. I'm telling you. I swear to you.
Really?
You do not
in
know
Alaska?
You do not know what redneck is unless that's upper echelon. That's upper echelon redneck.
Their country folks can't survive, y'all.
And they got a lot of money. They have a lot of money. Money everywhere, but they spin it on stuff that rednecks would spin it on, like a 15-year-old Cessna plane, and they just duct tape it together. Well, I have 6 of them, so we'll fly those around type thing.
You have to, though. It's so remote. Most people are, so remote that, there's... If you break down in the middle of the night on the road, you might die. It's
and they do all the time, yeah.
It's hardcore up there.
Anyways, back to Schaeffer Cox story, right? So this guy, Schaeffer Cox, he forms a militia. I only say that. It's not necessarily part of the story. It's going to be part of the story if you hit Wikipedia or something. But he starts to come out, and he's a very charismatic individual, preaching about even more versions of liberty than Alaska already allows. That slowly transitions into him running for political office. That transitions into him at some point becoming privy to information of what sex trafficking, drug trafficking, yeah? Ran by prominent political figures, possibly tied in with FBI. There was a whole lot of allegations going on. Well, then it came to these agent provocateurs that were showing up to his house and basically trying to provoke him, if not fully entrap him into some type of violent reaction. They came to this guy's house and took his kid from him. A federal agency took his kid from him. I've never heard of that before.
Yes.
A federal agency.
This is after several, like, there have been state trials that threw it out of court, and then the feds tried it. Like, there's corruption at every step of the way you can see going on. And you know, this guy is just like everybody else in East Tennessee. He's a Constitution-loving, you know, person who loves his country and wanted to do the right thing. And he's in prison.
To finish this whole story out how this thing eventually ends, you can see where this is going, obviously. He had a cache of weapons. They eventually ended up arresting him for a myriad of charges, ran him through state court. The state charges were eventually dropped. Now, unfortunately enough and frustratingly enough for some of the audience right now, we have a federal court system as well, so they ran him through the federal court system. I suppose it's different charges, so you don't really hit a double jeopardy thing. Maybe that's how that goes, different court system, whatever. The point being is he was convicted in federal court. That is where he currently still sits. The story today is going to be trying to unpack a little bit of, hey, man, were you set up a little bit because you were trying to expose some sex and drug trafficking, and, you know, how's that going down?
Yeah. It's on, like, Ruby Ridge level proportions. I mean, honestly,
Right.
I'm amazed the man is alive, actually, just because of the same kind of setups we're going on.
And I'll tell you, like, this isn't conspiracy theory
Well, for
Thursday.
now, he's still alive for now.
I mean, there was Senate trials on this, you guys, where the senators actually said this is deplorable. So this is not like conspiracy. This is real life. There's the conspiracy has basically been proven.
Well, and if you dive deep enough, you will hit the bottom of the conspiracy theory, right? And that's where the conspiracy theory realm starts. This will be interesting for Roz. I know it's not conspiracy theory Thursday, but the jail that they sent him to, I don't even know how to describe it.
It's a black site prison, is what it would be. You know,
do you know?
think.
Can you expand on that? I don't even know what black site prisons are.
Black site prisons are prisons that are not public. They're
like off the books prisons.
Yes,
or something?
they're places where they stick prisoners that they don't want the public to have access to. The government does. There's one in Chicago, or near Chicago, but this one is inside of another prison, and it's called something like the.
Oh, I can't even pronounce it. Yeah, I was looking up at it too.
Persons of Inspirational Ability or something like that.
What?
Unit. Like they have. I'll have to look it up and get the right, but it has inspirational. Like it's about people who can inspire others to, you know, be good citizens and stand against the government.
Russ, do you remember? You know Gucci Mane, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tie this together.
Mane.
I know we just jumped from Schaeffer Cox to Gucci Mane, but follow along for a second, right? Do you remember a couple years back, Gucci Mane got hit with that federal charge? He was serving 3 years, right?
Yes.
Do you remember these wild stories coming about them performing experiments on him, replacing organs? He died, and then they cloned him somehow.
Yes.
He came out, and none of his family recognized him. He wasn't acting the same.
If you look at an old picture of him and a new picture of him, that's not him.
Well, see, that's the conspiracy theory.
I haven't heard that one.
Where he spent those 3 years in jail was this jail. And I don't,
it was this one.
It was that jail. He actually wrote a song about it, or whoever wrote a song about it after he got out of that jail.
Right.
It's called The One Day Out of the Fed. Dude, I don't do the rap game. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but you can Google it back there. Gucci Mane, something day after the Fed, whatever. Anyways, yeah, I know. But the further you dive down this hole, the more you start to enter the realm of what some could say.
So hold on, Mr. Henry. So what you're saying is the elitists are somehow wrapped up in a sex trafficking ring?
No.
Well, but think about
No
this way,
way.
too. Rod, do you remember that person we had call in? And I'm going to get these details wrong, but he was in California or somewhere, and he was working with the ATF, not for the ATF, but the ATF came up on his site. Remember this? And they had, what was it, 2 or 3 semi-trucks that they didn't know what was in at first. Well, they were hanging around doing the little drills or whatever for 3 or 4 weeks, and they ended up getting buddy enough, sharing some beers, cooking some meat, doing the thing.
Cooking meat. A man thing to do.
That's what the ATF does, I guess. They drink beers and cook the meat. But the guy called in and told the story in air, which is why I feel comfortable telling it again. And he said, well, eventually I got comfortable enough with one of the ATF agents, and I said, hey, buddy, you got 3 or 4 semi-trucks in here. What in the world is in this? And he's like, hey, you want to see? And sure enough, it's exactly what you would think, right? It's exactly what you think. It's a clandestine operation, cache full of weapons, radar technology, drones, like the whole deal.
Yeah.
The whole
Terminator droids walk out.
And he asked him, he said, you're in the middle of like a 180-acre property. There's nobody else out here for literally miles. What are you doing with all this stuff? And he said, in his exact words, he said, we're running drills to make sure we never have another Waco happen again.
And that was because Waco got away from them.
Yes,
That
right.
stuff. It's not because they don't plan on setting people up anymore. Like, the more I believed the narrative when Waco happened. I was a young teenager, and I believed it. The more I've looked into it, the more I'm telling you guys, it was not what the government has said. Even the reports after on the investigations have said this was terrible.
Well, look, regarding the Waco thing, all right, you're going to tell me that this guy killed 2 federal officers and they just dropped those charges?
Yeah.
They just dropped those charges? America doesn't drop charges if its officers getting killed. No. It doesn't happen. I mean, unless you shoot people in the back when they're running away from the property. Maybe that's when it happens.
One of the things I learned recently about that is that there was a British military unit of some sort training, and they were in on the shooting of those people as well. So, that's foreign soldiers on American soil killing American citizens, and people don't care.
The other thing I thought, Sherry, when this guy relayed that message on our show saying we want to make sure another Waco never happens again, it's either the setup or trying to preempt, God forbid, someone in this country, some well-to-do redneck somewhere that already owns 200 acres to himself and has built some compound. God forbid he actually gets his hands on a whole bunch of weapons again. Like, it's cool as long as we have our tanks and stuff, but there's 325 million of y'all out here. There's no way we can what's the American military? 1 million people?
Oh, easy.
Right?
For sure. And this is the thing that the founders wanted us to know, is that the Second Amendment is not about go into war necessarily, and it is somewhat about self-defense, but it's self-defense against your government when it's out of control. And so, it's a scary place when you get in that position, but people are allowed to own weapons. But if you bling the radar of the FBI and they don't like the cut of your jib, it's going down.
Look, you know where Mr. Henry stands on this? If for some reason you can get a clearance level high enough, I'm of the opinion, the persuasion, you should basically be able to, you should own whatever you can afford. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I know it's a very, very controversial opinion, but
I agree.
Hey, man, if you can afford a tank, go buy a tank as long as you can get the clearance for it. I really don't care. Here's what I want to do when I come back. We're going to set this break up right now. If you tell I'm speaking a little bit quick, I got 5-hour energy coursing through the veins right now. I hit this little insomnia thing last night, and I couldn't sleep. Sherry sent me this book. You remember the title of that book?
It's called... I'll have to look it up.
Right.
It's libertarian anarchy, I think.
Yeah. She's trying to turn me into an anarcho-capitalist is what's happening here. Slowly but surely she's trying to.
You're asking for it. Yeah.
So I couldn't sleep, and I started reading this book last night. And, of course, I started with the law section because I shouldn't have, but that's exactly what I did. And given the training, the background that I have, I immediately started to become frustrated. Immediately started to become frustrated in the sense of, goodness gracious, it seems like what these anarcho-capitalists are calling for is exactly what I read through for the historical background of how the American legal system was already set up.
What?
Well, and I'll explain this later, right? Yeah. And I don't want to take that too far out of context, but the more I read, the more frustrated I became. Because I don't know what the alternate versions that were pitching. What I initially saw, going through, and I've got through 80 pages or something last night because I just couldn't sleep.
It's not a long book either.
It's not, yeah. But I just kept reading, kept thinking to myself, what are they talking about? They're setting up a standard that if you just let it play out for another 100, 200 years, you have the current American legal system. What are they trying to ask for? And then I stopped for a second and said, all right, you do this stupid radio program every day. You're always on edge. If you're not doing the program, you're talking to Shine, doing podcasts. It's always politics. It's always about what the next move is. Step back for a second. Try and pull yourself out. See if there's any sense of commonality here. And what I'm going to try and do today, while Sherry's trying to convince me to become an anarcho-capitalist, I'm going to try and convince her to become a Trump fan. I'm hoping by the end of this next segment, there's at least a few things we can agree on that where Sherry's trying to get me to be, Trump is actually actively working back towards. You don't believe it now? Look at Roz's face.
You really have lost your mind this time.
I do agree. Trump has done amazing things in deregulation.
Oh.
I would... Yeah, I'm a fair person, right? I try to be intellectually honest. And I mean, I don't think the man's Hitler or anything. Like people, like some people say, like I don't like power, concentrated power, and people who wield it. That's the thing. It's not that I'm anti-Trump necessarily. It's you know, those powers are things that were not meant to be as overarching as they are.
Yeah, see, that's the two critiques about Trump I've never quite understood. He's a fascist, yet he's constantly, continually cutting federal bureaucracy, getting rid of his own power. Also, he's an absolute moron, but he's capable of orchestrating the largest political takeover scandal in all of world history. You can't
with the Russians.
Yeah, with the Russians. He has no clue what he's talking about. He's an absolute idiot, but he's the most brilliant political strategist of all time.
That's the product of intellectual dishonesty. It's when you make everything fit the narrative it needs to, not the truth.
Yeah.
And that's, we want to get to the truth because that's where the sweet stuff is.
That's where the sweet stuff is. The Jelly Center, 725. Yeah. Hit this break. Be right back.
Mama turned back on her.
I'm sorry?
Says his mama turned his back on him.
You realize you're on an FBI watch list now.
Why?
You're probably on one just for knowing me.
Oh.
But today, all those keywords we just said, FBI, government, guns, conspiracy, Schaeffer Cox. Like we said a bunch of words that are going to hit. Your file has begun if it hasn't already.
Hey, Facebook, whoever's in here, am I clipping again? Yeah, you know what I mean? Is it getting that popping, crackling sound?
Snap, crackle, pop.
Snap, crackle, pop. Hey, your people, did they see this last time? Did you see this last time?
Yes, you did. You're so proud of that.
Yeah.
This mic is like...
Yeah, it's awful.
It's got impotence problems.
Yeah, it's true.
It needs to be tight.
I'd put you somewhere else if I could get you in the camera.
No, that's okay. I keep talking to the mic even though we're off air.
Let me see if I can find some of these that really frustrate me, the quotes I mean. It's a pretty good book, though.
Yeah, if you read the first part, we were talking yesterday about how being a Christian and anarchism fit perfectly together.
I listen to your voice podcast, too, at least 2 episodes of it.
Which one?
God something.
Oh, Godarchy?
Yeah.
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 He's good. He tries not to be, he tries not to be a theologian because he recognizes he's not. But, it's something important to talk about because so many Christians use verses to back up political positions that are absolutely devilish.
Yeah.
But they back them up because it's intellectual dishonesty. They want what they want, and they want the people that they want in power. And so, it's easy to fall into that trap, right?
It is. I mean, if you go the other route of, God has certain select chosen leaders that he pushes throughout time to lead his chosen people or something, the shining city in the hill, all that, then all of a sudden...
Those would probably be religious leaders, though.
Well, no, they should be. They should. But, I mean, but then all of a sudden, I hear what you're saying. All of a sudden, you get Prescott Bush, who apparently was chosen by God himself, and I'm not about to back that one for sure, but...
I've heard a lady... I mean, we all know President Trump is a man, just like any other man, with his faults and with his long suits. But I heard a lady who was a prophetess on the YouTube one day, or maybe it was the 700 Club or something, and she was prophesying about how President Trump is going to win the election. He's going to lead us into this and that. I mean, that stuff hasn't come true.
Was this prior to the election? Or?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
well,
she had a
50-50
chance.
I will say, for nothing else, she's one of like 5 political pundits that got that right.
She's not a pundit. She's a religious person.
Right, yeah.
That's what she does. But, I mean, Ron Paul said it. The peace candidate always wins. Now, that doesn't mean they are really for peace. But if you are less hawkish than the other person, you win because people really don't want to send their children to die.
They don't.
And
unless there's an immediate emotional reaction reason to, or some legitimate, we got Nazis going where.
Yeah.
Hey, whoever you are, is it Raja?
Where?
From India. Guy from India.
Raja Chetan, I think is how you say it.
Topic of discussion today, if you just joined, you probably want to share these, folks. I am not an ANCAP. I call myself a constitutionalist because I don't know what I'm supposed to call myself here in East Tennessee. I'm far more conservative or in the Republican base. I'll just call myself a Republican. Why not? She's trying to convince me to become an ANCAP. I'm trying to convince her to like Trump. That's what the next segment's about.
I think you're one of the actual conservatives that I know. Like the very few actual conservatives.
Oh, I'll take that.
I think most people equate Republican and conservative, and that's not necessarily the case. I would say in most instances these days it's not the case, because conservatism, as people are wanting to say, is about conserving the good.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not conserving freedom and the principles of the Founding Fathers, which the Republican Party does not, then, like, they do more than maybe the Democrats, but they still don't.
Like, see, that's
there's
maybe
a bump stock ban, guys.
I know, and that's maybe what I want to go a little bit on next segment is as I look at the thing going on, a perfect example, right? As I look at the thing going on with Yemen, I think to myself, like, bro, that is not what you pitched me during the campaign. But there's several other countries I can point to. Syria, great example there. He's pulling out of that. He somehow convinced Rand Paul to sign off on Pompeo for no other reason than the guarantee to get out of Afghanistan. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know.
What did he say when he pulled out of, I mean, we're doing radio off radio, but what did he say when he pulled out of Syria? Or said we're going to pull out of there?
When did he say, you mean?
What did he say?
Oh, I don't remember.
We played it on this show. I was here that day.
Oh, shit, I don't remember.
There's no treasure there. We're going, there's no treasure there.
Did he say that?
That was when you played it. We talked about it on this show.
Yeah, I think I remember
There's
that.
no treasure there.
Well, but isn't he right, though? I mean, isn't that the reason why America's been in some of these places? Is gotta get that oil, bro. Well, but
Absolutely.
But Trump is honest to a fault. He's honest to a fault, and I kind of love that from time to time.
He's not on. That was an accident. That's not honesty. That's an accident. That's a slip of the tongue.
Yeah, it might have been.
And so, you know, that's why do you think we're standing in Yemen? There's no treasure in Yemen, but there's treasure in the Saudi money that comes our way.
Let me pitch it to you this way: if he meant to come out and actually, if it wasn't some type of Freudian slip, if he meant to come out and actually say there's no treasure there, wouldn't that be the best way to pitch it? The naysayers would be, the anti-neocons would say, yeah, exactly. That's what we said you were there for the whole time. The neocons would say, well, if we're not getting any black gold out of it, we might as well get out of there anyways. I mean, it'd be the most convincing way to pitch it.
It's not, though, because it sets up the idea that if there is treasure there, then it's okay to be there. Like, that's the opposite of that, is, well, if there's treasure there, then we have a right to be there. Which is not true.
or it could be sort of a retroactive sting to previous policies. Now I'm spinning here, obviously. Yeah, right.
And I think that is a load of crap, and I hate it with a passion.
I just like the way you say the word crap.
Well, because it is. You cannot give, like, this is putting your faith in men. This is putting, like, we don't know. He is a man like any other, and he is subject to the same faults that we are.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to say, well, I'm going to suspend my freedom just a little bit, give the government a little bit more power so that this man can play 3D chess? No, not with my freedom, you can't.
What do you do with something that is clearly a policy that is not usually a Republican policy, but regardless of what you think the motivation was, does work out in the end to prove some sense of 3D chess? Tariff thing is the perfect example.
Ends never justify means. It's not okay to be evil to do good.
Well, but I guess what I'm asking is, I guess I would have to look to the level of severity that evil was actually caused by those tariffs. I'm not sure how many people actually lost jobs, whether that actually did anything to the economy.
If you institute something, you know that people are going to lose their incomes for no reason other than you want to protect, like, and tariffs don't protect industry.
No, they're terrible.
Costs
it's just a sales tax.
Like,
I mean, it's all it is.
It's a terrible thing to do, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
The Republicans went along with it because their guy wanted it, who was a Democrat for many years.
Here's what I'm saying, though. It did force the EU, Canada, Mexico, South Korea, and hopefully potentially China, 5 different countries to sign new trade deals.
Tell that to the people who lost their jobs. They don't, like, why is that okay? Number make it okay?
When we come back in, we're talking about how I'm right and she's wrong.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Come at me, bro.
No, in all sincerity, we're just talking about how we're trying to convince each other of each other's worldview. I'm bringing up a story of a
You're
book.
convinced of mine already. You just don't know it.
A book she gave me recently. I'm going to basically bring it up the sense of I was mad at first. I'm not mad now because all it's calling for it going back to less regulation, less complexity in the legal code. Just make it simpler.
It's common law.
Are you looking for a song to back it up?
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you.
No, I just want to know what you guys are going to talk about.
Yeah, find that song, whatever that song was.
Sandler Training, Herzog and Associates at W.
What is my camera doing? Bill Clinton starting a radio talk show? No, he's not. Is he really, Ray? Are you messing with me?
What did he say?
It's a bad thing to mess about, bro. Ray, or RC, it's Ray's alternate account, said, how many alternate accounts you got, buddy? He said, you want to talk conspiracy? Bill Clinton is starting a talk radio show. Is that real?
Are you serious? I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either.
That man, he loves the spotlight too much to leave it.
I wonder what that show would even be about.
Raja says, what's Bill Clinton going to talk about? Corruption or his Hillary problem? That's great.
Dan, are you saying like right now when we're talking it's overloading? Or when we're back on air?
Oh, it's turned down the mic feed to Mevo. It's overloading.
Yeah, I figured. I had it up super high because we're so far away from it. It gets tinny like you're in a bathroom or something. Hey, Daniel, if you're still going to be hanging out here, man, when we go back on air, when I switch over to the iRig mic, let me know if it's clipping then.
Oh, it's turned down the mic feed to Mevo.
Yeah, I figured. I had it up super high because we're so far away.
Right, that's a common law. Causing people to die ain't right, that's a common law. Breaking people's hearts ain't right, that's a common law. Speaking them lies ain't right, that's a common law. Using them for money ain't right, that's a common law. Causing people to die ain't right, that's a common law.
737, Roz, I'm not sure how you found this song, but that is literally exactly what we're talking about. I'm totally serious.
Yep.
Roz came in.
This is amazing, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all don't even know.
For real. Roz came in during the break. Only Facebook got this, but she came in and said, hey, what are y'all coming back and talking with? And I was messing with her and gave her a terrible answer.
Yes,
and
you did.
she came back with literally with
Thank
exactly
you,
what
Sherry.
She 100. That's all.
Anyways.
I try, guys.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly what we're talking about. Sherry sent me this book. I have it right in front of me, Libertarian Anarchy. I was reading through the sections last night, starting with law. It's the fifth chapter in the book. I probably shouldn't have started with this. And I'm going through, look at all these things I have highlighted, right?
He's done
highlight. And each one of these things is things that I'm mad about. Each one. The more I'm reading through, the more upset I'm getting to myself.
Yeah.
And the more upset I'm getting is because reading through this first chapter was essentially a insanely condensed version of the summer reading that I assume is required reading for everyone going through law school. When you first started going to law school, at least in my law school, they gave you a mountain worth of material you had to read through before you got in there so you understood the historical background. How did our legal system get here? What is the basic fundamentals of our legal system? Not what the code is, not how to cite evidence, none of that stuff. It's just where we started from, what common law was, how we got to where we are right now. Mm-hmm. And as I'm reading through this, I'm thinking to myself in the back of my mind, my misconception possibly of what anarcho-capitalism is, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this pitch? What is this pitch? This is not the anarcho-capitalist pitch that I've heard. Now, frustrating for you, I think. It's probably going to be a lot of people have a misconception that there is no law.
Right. It's not no rules. It's no rulers.
Right.
No centralized power. There would be leadership and communities, but it would be a voluntary, voluntary interaction.
Yeah.
That's, it respects your freedom. It respects mine.
And the more I'm going through some of this stuff, the more I'm thinking, what? Let me just read a few of the things. The most common method of lawmaking in operation today is enactment of statutes by legislative bodies such as the British Parliament, the U.S. House of Congress. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Those are the
And this is an Irishman, by the way.
Is it?
Yes, he's
There
Irish.
you go. He goes on to say, but as Rothbard notes, this is historically incorrect. Most law, but especially the most libertarian parts of the law, emerge not from the state, but out of non-state institutions, such as institutions that have been tribal, custom, common law judges, and courts. And again, I'm thinking to myself, well, yes, of course.
Yes.
Everyone knows this.
They were solutions that people that had a problem, and they figured out solutions in society. That's where common law comes from. And it makes sense because it's not some power that has its own interests to fulfill, like the United States legal system, where when you go into a trial, it's the state versus whoever, and they have a conflict of interest in many cases when they're trying state agents or people that are, employed by the state.
Yeah, the whole trying of the state thing is a totally different topic. I actually ran across this organization that was trying to extend criminal victims' rights. Criminal victims' rights.
What?
Yeah, see, it doesn't sound like a real thing, right?
Criminal victims'
But the point being is the same rights that would be extended to someone in a civil trial. Like your attorney constantly calling you. We got a motion today. This is what's coming up. Every single thing you need to know in a case, if you were paying your attorney, he would be on the phone with you every single day. Show up here. This is what's happening. Here's the paper. Here's the length of the paper.
Right.
I'll email you this ahead of time. It was advocating for those rights on the criminal side, which prosecutors have a tendency to think I'm defending the state. I'm not
Right.
I'm not defending an individual.
the victims of a criminal or whatever. You're defending the state. Yes, it's the state versus so and so.
So I keep reading through this. I read this here. In all these institutions, the task of the judge was not to make law, but to find in existing and general accepted principles, and then to apply it to specific cases or to new technology or institutional conditions.
back to it. Like, so that's what I always tell people who say we got to get back to the original and Constitution. That's great and all, but the centralized power portion of it will get you in 200 years right back where we are. See, that's the problem. Centralized power always works.
And see this,
to this end.
But see, this is where you and I start to diverge a little bit. Even when I'm willing to admit that, okay, yeah, listen, the pitch to bring power back, to decentralize that power, to make the legal code more understandable. Mm-hmm. Dude, I don't know. Look, the only reason why you make legal text so insanely complicated is for job security. But what I'm saying is there were several portions of this argument that were talking about the necessity of precedent. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, that says you're still having a centralization of power, whether it's communal power or otherwise. It's still a community agreeing upon what that objective reality and objective
social
truth
norms,
is.
which are much smaller in geographical area. You're not going to have 300 million people under the same banner and say this law applies to everyone. Like that doesn't work. We know that. California and Alabama are two different places. California and East Tennessee, two different places.
Maybe that's what I need to clarify then. Am I correct in saying, or maybe I should just ask you the question, would any version of an ANCAP philosophy work for all 325 million of us?
No.
Okay.
No, you can't have one overarching power for 300 million people.
I guess maybe not say it that way, but is there a way you think currently, given our demographics, given the proximity that we're spread apart from each other, that if for some odd reason we all took a pill tonight and 100% of Americans just garnered this ANCAP philosophy and just wanted to do it right now, the way that we're currently established. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying an overarching government that enforces that. I'm saying that ideal being accepted. Is there a way it could work for all of us?
Sure. That's a utopia, though, and there's no such thing. Like that, you can say that and make that argument, but that doesn't matter. Like, no, because that's not going to happen. We can't get 300 million people to agree on the rules we have, on the Second Amendment even. So how are we going to get them to agree to that stuff? No. Like if California doesn't want to have guns, bless their heart.
Yeah, sure.
Bless their heart. You go your way. You do you, boo.
Yeah.
We're going to do guns here. Like, that's the thing. That they shouldn't be forced to, but they will suffer the consequences of that.
Well, see, then let me ask you this, because for a guy like me, if my version of pitching that would be, okay, get rid of the 17th Amendment, tell me the 4th Amendment means something again, and rewrite the 10th Amendment so it's actually codified this time. Let's do something about it. But my point of it would be there is something that I could clearly demonstrate not only I could do, I would want to be done, I think would be effective, and you could maybe even legislate. Do you ever get frustrated, though, if the basic premise of what you're saying is, no, ANCAP's never going to work for everybody? It's never going to work for everybody.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that in an anarcho-capitalist society, you would have the variety and competition of governance, because people could have a community that is just conservative Christians, because we don't make any difference between. We believe that you have the right to associate with anyone you want or disassociate with anyone you want for any reason that you want, and it could be a terrible reason, but that's your right as a human individual. So you want to close yourself off behind a little walled community, you go right ahead. You won't last very long. But hey, that's you play out your beliefs to their end, and you're responsible for the consequences of those things. So, I've lost where we were going here, but
I'll end by saying this. This is one of the final paragraphs in the book that Sherry sent me about a week ago now. Our imaginations are limited by the tyranny of the present. We tend to believe, unthinkingly, that the way things are is the way things always have been and always have to be.
Yes.
The legal systems we have, with their sharp distinction of criminal law from the law of tort, civil law, I would say, with their idea of crime and as an offense against the state, with their presumption that there can be only one system of law in a given territory, with their theories of punishment radically disconnected from any notion of restitution, are historically contingent and mutable. Now, I was thinking to myself, I was going through that. That's not outrageously different from what we currently have, or rather what we're currently founded upon. And I think what I'm saying is I would be comfortable going back. And what it caused me to realize last night, this is what I was getting to the entire time, is you trying to push me with this caused me to realize, what are the good things I can focus on?
Trying to push you. You call me and say, give me something to read.
Let me ask this, okay? The criminal justice reform, criminal sentencing reform that Trump did, and the push to dramatically cut bureaucratic red tape. I mean, for every one, there's two cut type thing.
Those are great.
Yeah, right?
I think those are wonderful things, yes. Like, just because someone uses power to do a good thing doesn't mean that power is good. It means they did a good thing with it. Like that's not an argument for centralized, overarching federal monstrosity that we have. I mean, it's funny, though, to me, because you argue an anti-federalist point and a federalist point against each other.
I know, but see, there has to be a necessary way that conflict works together. Right? There are always going to be hierarchical systems, and people are always going to coalesce
Natural
together.
hierarchies, yes. And that's bottom-up governance. That's individuals in a community, probably the size of counties, saying, hey, let's figure out how we're going to live here, how we're going to operate and run our systems that we need, roads, sewage, all that stuff. Let's figure that out. From the bottom up, we decide, not the federal government, not somewhere way off that doesn't care about what's going on here and what matters to us. They care. They're looking out for 326 million people.
And see, this is where we differ again. I'm such an indoctrinated optimist that I still believe within our current system we could make something akin to that happen. Roz is shaking her head no. 7:51. Hit this break. Come back with Stimpy.
All of human history argues against your point of view, Mr. Henry.
Wait, I don't understand. What do you mean, how?
Because centralized power always ends up that way. You can say, let's go back, let's pull it back, but it'll end up exactly like that's not a solution.
But the point I'm making, maybe I need to clarify this in there. The point I'm making is everything I read in that chapter last night was the original proposition of where we currently are. That all this stuff is the original proposition that created the parameters for centralized power.
Because those guys, no, there's another book you should read. It's called America's Counter-Revolution, I think it was. The Constitution was the counter-revolution to the revolution.
Sure, oh yeah. Yeah.
But so we got freedom. Like, they should have stopped with the Declaration of Independence.
Well, I guess I'll put it this way. I'm talking about the legal framework that they set up here. They're talking about having an adjudication process. They're talking about having an arbitration process. They're also talking about some viability of actually being violent, which legal self-help is still a very real thing. They're also talking about the necessity of case precedent, right? So the necessity of, once you figure out that something works for a given case, if the details are similar enough, you use that same thing. They also talked about those people that are in the community that are good enough to recognize those cases, go back to them again. Right. They also talked about, as you go further, that's going to build in complexity. As it builds in complexity, you might need to make more specified laws or case precedent that fits that thing. You get what I'm saying? Right. The rules are set there for an exponential increase. Give it 300 years, you basically have the American legal system.
No, I don't believe that's true, because in that there's no overarching state that can use those legalities to its own benefit. That's the problem that you have with the federal government right now, is that it has an interest in doing these things. It has an interest in making tax law.
I guess, let me ask this then. This is something I missed. What is the mechanism?
I'm not a legal scholar, though, so I don't know.
And maybe I'm going too far into the legal realm. What is the mechanism that would be set up in that ANCAP system that would stop that from happening? If this were to nuclear holocaust were setting this up today, what would be the mechanism that someone could set up that would never allow a federal government to be implemented or something?
Because the governances are very small. They don't have a lot of power. So maybe in one county it does go terribly wrong.
Right.
But there's 326 million people are going to suffer under it.
Would you ever have the fear that, like, let's say you're, I don't know, you're living in Lenore City, all right, and Knoxville, for some odd reason, they do Recode on top of Recode on top of Recode, and Knoxville becomes the new Los Angeles. Are you ever afraid that, like, it takes one a-hole of a city to screw it up for the other people around them?
But the thing is that people tend to live around people that are like them. And those competitions of governance would make it more appealing for you to just move to a place that will agree. Like if you're for sanctuary cities, then you'll move to where there is one.
I agree with that.
So it's about incentives as well.
actually be pretty terrified of that dude. Just walking down the street. You know he can't fire a gun either. He has no way to handle it. He doesn't know how to handle it. He's not been trained properly at all.
He's gonna shoot himself before
exactly.
he shoots
Have you seen those
Exactly.
videos of Antifa doing paramilitary training?
Oh, no, really?
Oh, it's hilarious. They're idiots.
That's awesome. I love
They
this.
don't know what they're doing. It's funny.
I've seen
really
the ones
funny.
of, I don't know, I don't want to be too inflammatory here, whatever Middle Eastern trade. They're doing like hopscotch and they're doing like leapfrog. It's like stupid stuff. I'm pretty sure it was a parody, but I imagine it would be something like that. Hey, let's go to Stimpy. Stimpy, about 3-4 minutes left here, man. And depending on our guest coming up, I may pull you over to the next. I'll figure that out during the break, but go ahead, Stimpy.
Okay, because where you guys were talking about the whole anarcho-capitalist beliefs and everything else, one thing that has definitely been giving me a little bit more insight on this, granted this is a show that's a fiction, but it is fantastic and it will take you back in time to a simpler time. But have you ever heard of Poldark? It's on PBS Masterpiece Theater.
Did you say pole dart?
Yeah, Poldark. It was a guy. It's a last name, right? I think I have seen that. It's a British.
Okay, because Sherry, with you, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyone else that has a different belief that, we need to be more of a governed society, watch this show. You might have to go online. I don't know if it's available on Netflix or not because they're in the middle of the last season right now. But it takes place it's right after the ending of the American Revolution. Mm-hmm. And the fictional character is Ross Poldark. And when he leaves, he is a man of stature and wealth. When he comes home, they think that he is dead. His father is dead. His estate's bankrupt. And this man is trying to rebuild his estate. His people are loyal to him, and they will die for him. And there's a reason for that. And it is his influence that helps to shape the society around him. But because he is very bitter from the war, and basically he went to fight a war that they had no business going to in the first place.
Hey, Stimpy, let me do this better. We got to hit this break, one of those things where I get cut off whether I wanted to or not. Let me put you on hold. I'm pretty sure our guest is in studio for the next segment. If not, I'll bring it. He is? Okay, yeah. Yeah, Stimpy, do this for me, buddy. Can you give us a call back around 9:30, man? I'd probably like to pick this up again there because I know Sherry would probably like to give you a response on some of this stuff, too.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, I can do that.
Good deal, man. I'll talk to you later, Stimpy. There goes Stimpy. 7:58, news, traffic, weather, all that, unless you're on Facebook. Be right back.
Disco Radio Action. Control.
Next thing is the his security thing.
Okay. I was wondering. I didn't know when is he coming on?
Who?
Jordan Page at 9.
Oh yeah, 9. Yeah.
So he told me he had to get up at 6, so I figured out it'd be 9.
Oh jeez.
3 hours.
Yeah. California. All the California people.
He's in Washington.
Still better than India though, right?
Yeah, he's in Washington, not California.
Same time thing, right? Well, you want to play some Rothbard during the break?
Rothbard, sure.
You like a little Roth.
He's funny. Rothbard, he had this mean little laugh. Hearing him speak is pretty funny. He laughed a lot. Why is Ray talking about punching Raja? What's going on here?
What? Ray,
why are
don't
you
be
threatening violence? Ray?
Yeah, man. There's new people. You got to show them the real news hospitality.
Here we go. Speaking of hospitality, this is Scott Brokamp of His Security.
Nice.
No, that's not. This is Christine Dean of His Security.
Hi, Christine. I'm Grant.
This is Grant.
I'm Sherry. Nice to meet you.
You look like you started.
I'm Sherry. Nice to meet you.
Your hair's coiffured and everything looks good. She always looks good.
I knew we were having guests in the studio, man. I had to
So you got spruced up?
She's observing. He's talking. He's at the little
He
DJ.
doesn't let
Do
me
we
talk
need
on the
2
radio.
mics? Just
Just
one?
one.
One?
Just one.
I'll send him here. I'm going to hit a break real quick. Come back and game plan a little bit. But
You're good.
should be
No worries.
It is good. We were talking about
He's
doorbell
easy.
cameras where I was.
Oh, that's what.
And then that spawns him into a further discussion of if they come out to your house, what do you really need? And they can find
Well,
out.
we do a lot more than residents.
I'm Dave Anthony. Fox News is a meeting today between the
I'm
Justice
Well,
also
there's a lot
Department
of
and the...
churches.
Facebook, I'm hitting you with commercial audio. I'll be back in a minute.
General in contempt of Congress. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, now the deadline to give Congress access to the full Mueller report has come and gone. Members of the House Judiciary Committee have accepted an invitation to sit down with Justice Department staffers today. Republican Doug Clemons is the committee's ranking member.
They're trying to tear down a president. By doing so, they're also trying to tear down an attorney general who made the right call.
Committee Chair Democrat Jerry Nadler says if an agreement cannot be reached, the panel will move to hold the Attorney General William Barr in contempt. If issued, the citation would head to court. Dave.
Rachel, also today, former White House counsel Don McGahn's on deadline to turn over documents. Democrats want to question him later this month, and they want to talk to Special Counsel Mueller about evidence of possible obstruction of justice. The president wants neither to testify. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has refused to give Democrats in the House Ways and Means Committee the Trump tax returns, saying they refuse to show a legitimate legislative purpose.
Committee Chairman Richard Neal has demanded 6 years of the president's personal and business tax documents, citing a federal law that says the IRS shall furnish the returns of any taxpayer to a tax-writing committee. Mnuchin's denial is expected to trigger a legal fight. Democrats have suggested issuing a subpoena to the IRS.
Fox's Jared Halpern, 2 Reuters journalists jailed in Burma set free. They've been detained more than a year for reporting on a military crackdown on minority Muslims. The owner of Maximum Security, the horse disqualified after winning the Kentucky Derby, plans to sue the state horse racing commission after his appeal was denied. Gary West told Fox last night.
Frame by frame, in slow motion, you will find that the one horse actually caused the infraction, not our horse.
Country House was declared the Derby winner after the disqualification. This is Fox News.
We've all read some surprising online reviews, whether scoping out a spot for vacation or trying to find the best happy hour. So why should finding software for your business be any different? With over 850,000 software reviews, make an informed decision with Capterra. Capterra is the leading free online resource to help you find the best business software. From applicant tracking to workflow software, read reviews in over 700 categories from users just like you. Join the 4 million people that use Capterra each month. Find the right software today with Capterra. That's CAPTERRA.com/radio.
Guardians of the Grass, run with us on a John Deere X300 Select Series lawn tractor built for versatility. Because when you take pride in your lawn, you do it all. You mulch, bag, haul, grow, mow, and a whole lot more. And that's why the X300 Series takes care of everything with attachments for all your spring and summer projects. Because you're not just doing yard work, you're creating common ground for the whole neighborhood to enjoy. Nothing runs like a Deere. Run with us. Search John Deere X300 for more.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Stout-Brown with the local news update on Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760. He says he's changed, but that doesn't change what's happened in the past. Kay Cothran, the chief of staff for Tennessee Speaker of the House Glenn Casada, has stepped down amid multiple allegations. He's accused of having used cocaine when he was working in another office in the past, also inappropriate advances toward interns in the past, and a series of racial text messages, again, in the past. Cothran says by the grace of God and strong support, he's been able to achieve a lot since he turned his life around. But under unrelenting pressure, Cothran has stepped down, saying he doesn't want to distract the House and Senate from its business. There was a fatal head-on collision in Oak Ridge yesterday on Edgemore Road near Hall Ridge Park. Survivor was taken to UT Medical Center. Now that the massive fire at a recycling plant in North Knoxville is over, investigators are tying up loose ends in the investigation. They now confirm that, as suspected, the fire was caused by a forklift that backfired. That sent a flame into compressed, shredded paper. Then plastics, paper, and chipped wood fueled the fire, and it eventually covered about 2 acres. A Newport pastor is accused of statutory rape. 40-year-old Artie Michael Sturm allegedly had intimate relations with a teenager in 2016. Sturm was pastor of Day Spring Baptist Church at the time. And now you're up to date. I'm Tanya Stout-Brown on Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760, Knoxville's Talk you can trust.
Hey y'all, this is Rick Allen, host of Rick's House Home Improvement Radio Show, and we want to welcome our newest sponsor, EastTennesseeExteriors.com. You can find them on Facebook, and they're the people you can trust. EastTennesseeExteriors.com, 865-357-4326. 865-357-4326. Whether it's roofing, siding, windows, and more, great products at a fair price from a company you can trust. East Tennessee Exteriors, 865-357-4326.
Weather from the FMT Insurance Studios of Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
A cool morning, a warm afternoon as high temperatures reach 80 to 85 this afternoon under a mostly sunny sky, a few fair weather clouds. We drop near 60 tonight. Should be basically dry tomorrow, just a slight chance for a mountain shower, highs in the 80 to 85 degree range. Better coverage of showers and thunderstorms Thursday into Friday. Part of the weekend will be wet as well. Check out Mother's Day items from Spa 9700, the shops in Franklin Square, or spa9700.com. Just in time for Mother's Day. From the 6th Storm Team, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Hinkin for the East Tennessee Weather Network.
It's 53 at Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
Mr. Electric of Knoxville can help you safely maintain the electrical systems in your home or business. Ask about the free home safety check.
Full disclosure, nothing necessarily matters for what we're doing. I tell all the politicians when they come in, that Mevo camera right there, even when we're off air, we're still technically on air somewhere, you know. But I guess basically similar stuff you did with just Bob, run through the general opening questions, what the company is, how it started, if there's a religious element in there, you know. Then I'd like to, maybe not quickly, but at some point really dive into the services that are offered. I think each particular service we could do some cool stuff on.
Yeah.
And I'm just a tech guy, so I'd like to know too how difficult it is for y'all to stay up on the new technological development. Like every week there's something. You know?
Yes. It's very difficult. You have to pay somebody to feed your articles.
Yeah.
No, I scan certain things and he scans other things and we share them with each other. That's the best way we can do it. And even then we miss things.
What's your biggest selling item?
I don't know. I could pick one.
Right.
You know, well, and we're such a full spectrum company, so we don't just focus on residential or commercial. We do it all. So that broadens our spectrum. Obviously, video is always huge, but even today with all the security aspects, the smart home piece, everybody's wanting some type of smart control.
Right.
So that's always huge for us.
Yeah, smartphones driving everything now, right?
It is. Yeah, it has been for.
So you should do this. New slogan for the company. Just call the CIA and say, hey, what's going on with my house? You're spying on me through Alexa anyways. Hey, by the way, these mics are a little bit different than the one in Bob's studio. They're super one-directional, so don't feel bad about getting right up on them there.
Yeah, cool. I can do that.
What are you researching over there?
Oh, the Schaeffer Cox stuff. This William Potter, the journalist that's been inside the CMU, he's the only one ever. He's on an FBI watch list for that, for talking about it.
That's our 9 o'clock guest.
Securing America, brought to you by His Security. In God we trust. All others, we monitor.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Real News, broadcasting live from the FMT Insurance Studios. My name is Mr. Henry. Sherry Voluntary is sitting to the right of me here. Beautiful, beautiful Roz back there pushing the buttons, running the board. I'll give out the Crown Plaza call number. This will be an interesting segment for people to call in. 865-888-TALK, 865-888-8255. Joined right now by a fantastic guest in studio. You just heard the intro there. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, my name is Scott Brokamp, and I'm the founder and co-owner of His Security here locally in town.
All right, fairly asinine opening question here, I realize. Self-explanatory, what is His Security?
Well, we are a full-service technology solutions provider. Let's just make it simple. We do everything low voltage, which makes no sense to anybody. We have absolutely the worst industry trade slogans for what we do. But basically, we do anything from TV outlets, data connections, video surveillance, access control systems, smart home technology solutions, security systems, and you name it, on and on and on. Whole house audio, home theaters,
thermostats, security panels, live video.
You got it. I mean, keep going. We'll just, we can do the whole segment on what we do.
And we might actually. HisSecurity.com. HisSecurity.com is probably the easiest way for us millennials to find this. Or I can give it the phone number, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
865-474-9495. 865-474-9495. Now, you just went through. Go ahead.
I was I said, I don't know who you're calling a millennial, but
Come on. You look like one anyways. You're fitting in there.
Yeah, I definitely don't fit that category, so, I'm cool with that.
no millennials here but you.
I'm barely making the cutoff, sure. Now, you just went through the myriad of services that you offer. Now, I would presume that obviously His Security didn't start with a whole suite of packages. How did you get into the business?
Sure we did. Well, honestly, my first career was an auto mechanic.
Huh.
And after 11 years of that, I decided, man, this is back-breaking. I need to get out of here. But honestly enough, I learned a lot about electronics while working on cars. I went to college, got a degree in automotive technology, and we focused on electronics. And so I always had a privy to that, and ended up in telecommunications, and ended up working for a guy with a security company. And I loved AV. I loved doing home theater and that kind of crazy stuff. And so I stepped into a lot of new construction and the world of, as we call it, low voltage. So that was my onset, and man, it's just grown from there.
I hear your slogan all the time, "In God we trust, all others we monitor." I've always wondered, is there a religious component to the company, or is that just a decent tagline?
Well, obviously there is a religious component to it. Very simply, when myself and my business partner started this company, it was very clear to us, because both of us, we're techs, man. I mean, we work in the field. That's what we do. We make it work. And we're like, look, if we're going to make a business work, it's going to have to be left up to God. Otherwise, we're going to probably screw it up. So obviously, we make our focus and our point that God comes first in our business and in our lives. And so very much so, the tagline came natural to us because honestly, that's it, man. We trust in God, and then our businesses will monitor everybody else.
Again, website, I thought I heard Sherry breathe in there. Again, website, hissecurity.com, hissecurity.com, 865-474-9495, 865-474-9495. We hear these stories. It seems like it's becoming more often than not now of sort of the but-for principle, but for this service, but for the locks in the front door, but for the video, but for the alarm going off, something would have happened. Do you ever have any testimonials, clients call in and either give you some of those war stories or say, man, this is a situation that, goodness, some stuff was about to go down?
Well, and we get to see those stories unfold in real life, usually. But yes, many times we will have customers who actually have us assist them in either finding the video of what happened. And so, we look at it as in the protection world of the full spectrum. Video systems are great, but that's to help you see. You need an alert system as well. And so that's what your burglar alarm and smart home type of system is going to provide. So a lot of times we'll have an occurrence that have occurred, and then we'll have a business owner or a customer say, hey, you showed me how to get all this video archive. I forgot. Can you help us out? And so we'll go back and help them retrieve that video and then be able to do just that, show what caused the event. And so it's about being able to be well-rounded and full spectrum in that type of atmosphere, because obviously when an event occurs, there had to be something that preluded it.
I stay up with tech quite a bit. I follow all these YouTubers that go to the CES events every single year. I always want to have the latest and greatest cell phone, even though mine's 3 years old right now. Whatever, don't make fun of me. I say that just to say that I'm one of these guys that can speak with some authority. Technology's changing. It's a telescopic evolution. Every 2 weeks there's something brand new out there, and a lot of this stuff is tech-driven. How are you staying up on that?
Well, honestly, one of the best things we do is I have, we call her marketing mom, but Christine at my office, one of her job tasks and duties is to pull articles of new technology and to stay up to date what is on technology. So between herself and myself, a majority of our day starts with what's out there, what's the latest and greatest, what news articles have come through. Through modern technology, you're able to at least get hot topic items. You can create your own search task. And so, we're inundated with these things on a daily basis. And you're right, man, it is scary. It is scary of the new products that come out on a daily basis. I read an article, Kickstarter is coming up on their 10-year anniversary. And it was, and so, I tell people all the time, listen, if you desolate, broke, and have nothing, a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter is going to give you money.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? We're inundated with products that have
founded through Kickstarter or GoFundMe, and there's no security testing on them whatsoever. I mean, you don't know what you're getting. But people, oh, hey, but that one's $5 less than the other one I saw on Amazon, so I'm going to buy it.
Right.
And now, but there's no security protocol in place on it at all, and you have no idea what you're getting.
Security seems to be one of those places you wouldn't want to scrimp on.
No, of course.
If you're going to secure your home, you want to do
think,
it right.
You would think, I mean, I guess really some's better than none, maybe. I don't know. It's questionable,
But it's also about being able to see that new crest of what that next thing is. I remember the iRing, is that what they call it? The ring? The ring?
Yeah.
Wasn't that originally pitched on Shark Tank and no one bought it out?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. And so now it's owned by Amazon,
Yeah, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Man.
So Amazon owns Ring.
And everything else.
And everything else, yeah, right. The world of Jeff Bezos. So, but, you look at that, and you mentioned CES, and I went a couple of years back, and they were talking 8K TVs. Well, this year they were talking 16K TVs. But we're pushing out these products, but there's no content available. I mean, we got 4K TVs now. Who's broadcasting 4K?
Right.
I mean, you got to pay a little extra at Netflix to get.
It's just
4K.
still images or some 20-second video of a train riding through Switzerland. It's literally just that. It's just that.
You got it.
We're gonna film through a $200,000 drone.
Right?
No,
That's how you get the technology to be affordable.
It's the next best thing. Let's say someone's listening right now and they're thinking, hey, I have a security system. It's not doing what I want it to do. I don't have one right now. What is it? What does the process look like if someone either calls this phone number or goes to your website? People coming out, giving assessments, that whole deal.
Absolutely. So, and we always have to come to site to give an assessment. And I've always said it's real simple. If you have somebody looking to do a security review for you or going to do a security system, if they haven't come and looked at it, it's like going to the doctor with a broken arm and not allowing them to do an x-ray. Okay, that's insane. So it starts with a security assessment, a review. Obviously, we're going to identify key areas. There's particular points you want to make sure you contact, obviously all your access points. But then it comes down to, with all the modern technology, now you have that aspect of convenience.
Yeah.
So there may be items in the home that you want to be able to control or be aware of that have opened and closed, liquor cabinets, things like that.
Liquor cabinets,
oh,
really?
Yeah, so we can put contacts on things nowadays that will provide you instant notification in the event it's been opened. So thank goodness
many teenagers are cursing you right now.
Exactly. I was just saying there's a lot of would-be bad boys.
I'm glad I grew up before all this, y'all.
You and me both. Well, I'm glad we had no internet when I was a kid.
Speaking of all the things here, business intelligent access, security sensors, live video thermostat, security panel, lights, image capturing, wellness, shades, garage door lock. I just went through a lot of stuff. Is there a centralized hub we're talking about, an app? How do I get all the, if I'm one of these guys, if I got so much stuff going on, how do I control it all?
Yeah, so the beauty is it is all controlled through one app. We use a back-end service called alarm.com. They are the innovators and leaders in this new smart home industry that we live in. They help produce a more cost-effective means of smart home and control. And so they have the largest all-one app solution out of anybody out there. Obviously, you can get some good geeks who understand and can write some code and links and things together. You can use apps like IFT and be able to tie different separate apps and kind of try to make some back-end connections. But at the end of the day, that's just all open source. And if you don't know what open source means, that means it's open to anybody.
Right. Something Apple hates, which is why I call all y'all the sheeples. You don't have an iPhone, do you? That's right.
No. I have a quick question. I see on your website you talk about energy savings.
Absolutely.
And how you can, because I never considered that if you have the remote way to adjust your thermostat and turn off lights, and do you have people write into you with, this, I saved this on my energy bill? Do you have any examples of that?
So we actually, we do get we try to get feedback from all of our customers. That's key to us because obviously that's our judge and gauge to know how well we're doing what we do. But I personally can tell you that when I first started using the thermostat, I saved 12% just on my electric alone. And so, and that was like 10 years ago. That was before we incorporated a lot of the lights and a lot of the other technology with geo services. So now, we all have that locating device on our phone. So based on our location, we can have HVAC setbacks adjust based on our location. I simply, when I go to bed at night, my wife usually does it for me because she loves our alarm system. But we hit one button, it turns off all the lights, adjusts the HVAC, arms the alarm system, we're in bed.
Yeah, anecdotal messages are one of the more effective messages out there. I'm talking about my grandmother right now, 92, about to turn 93 years old, right? Lives by herself. My grandfather passed away a while ago, and she got one of these new security systems. Lives up in Kingsport, but she said one of her favorite things now is exactly what you're talking about. She pulls out her iPhone. She's got an iPhone, man. She's balling on the iPhone. She hits a couple buttons, though, and then before she walks to her house, instead of flipping all the lights on and being a little bit frightened, the whole house just lights up like a Christmas tree. She's good to go, you know?
Absolutely.
Hey, can you do one more segment with us?
Absolutely.
Yep. 8:20 in the morning, hit this break, be back. I want to ask our guest a little bit more about what the locations are, how far he can go, give the website out a few more times. Hit this break, be right back. All right, I'm an awful host today. Facebook, hang on 2 seconds. This audio is terrible this morning.
Oh,
Sherry, tell your people I'm sorry. It's the worst day for it to happen.
Okay, I'll tell them to calm down.
Yeah, because it's tied to the security system. It knows when you're away.
That's amazing.
It knows when you're home. It knows when you're coming home. And so it's lights and everything else. And so, yeah, you basically pay for your monthly fees by saving on your insurance and your electric.
That's cool. I might be calling you guys. I mean, my house, I think I've lived there about 6 years, and it had a security system. It's like there's these little buttons by the door.
Yeah.
And you can hit them, and an alarm will go off. Well, I didn't know it was hooked up anymore. And apparently one day I accidentally hit it, and I walk upstairs in my house, I'm like, wow, somebody's house alarm is going off. It's really not. It was mine. My neighbors were walking down the street to make sure I was okay, and like it was ridiculous. And I've accidentally, my son accidentally hit it one day, and so you have to go outside like into the box to turn it off.
Wow.
Because our box is only outside. Whatever. But I would love like a good security system, because I'm one of those at night. Like, I live in West Knoxville. It's very safe, but I'm an always lock your door person, and all the windows every night I go around and I make sure all the doors are locked, check whatever, and so that would help me out, because I can just not think about it.
You'd be surprised how many people don't lock all their doors.
She's got Canadian.
I'm amazed at how many people you hear about it on the news where somebody entered an unlocked car and stole a weapon or a wallet. It's like, who leaves a weapon in a wallet?
Tennessee has been serving people locally and all across Tennessee. A lot of things have changed over that time, but one thing remains the same: FMT's commitment to putting their policyholders first. Most insurance companies make decisions based on how it will affect their stockholders. At FMT Insurance, serving the policyholder...
The alarm and everything, and somebody attempted to break in. The alarm apparently scared them off.
That's good. That's what it's for, right? That's cool.
A lot of things have changed over that time, but one thing remains the same: FMT's commitment to putting their policyholders first. Most insurance companies make decisions based on how it will affect their stockholders. At FMT Insurance, serving the policyholder... And see what they can do for you. That's 523-5153. Or go online at fmtinsurance.com. Shared purpose, mutual values. FMT, the Farmers Mutual of Tennessee.
The Markley and Van Camp Show.
Oh, my God. It's an animated figure of Joe Biden sneaking up on the real Joe Biden to give him a shoulder rub and smell his head.
Trump tweeted this out.
The President of the United States.
Oh, my God.
All caps, welcome back, Joe.
I am speechless. When you played me this, I'm thinking it's some Yahoo in his basement that put this together today.
Probably.
And then I look up and I see Donald J. Trump, and I'm like, no way.
Weekday afternoons at noon on Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
Mr. Electric of Knoxville can help you with home or business projects like installations, wiring, and electrical safety. Ask about the free home safety check. Go.
Our range of clients are from, I think we've got an 800 square foot, basically one room studio, all the way up to 6.5 acres.
Dang. All right, that's a better way to do it.
Manufacturing facility.
We'll do it that way. Okay, I'll go commercial with the thing, because again, it's just...
Yeah. We don't do packages, we do solutions. But everybody lives their life differently.
Yeah, we do. So basically our model is like on the residential security side of life, we assign a point value to all the products, and you a la carte it, and then once you do, then we'll add up the points, put it into a solution for you. So
we should have asked you about the Recode stuff, man. All these new businesses going in with the back doors and the alleyways. Security systems galore is what they're going to be asking. Dude, by the way, so while you're in here, do you know anything about this Recode Knoxville?
No.
Yeah, no one does.
Yes, I do know a
Maybe
little bit
she
about
probably
it.
does.
I heard something about it, but I don't.
The
know
thing
much
that,
about it.
okay, and I'm going to go on a little rant here, sorry. We got time?
Well,
No?
we only have
I'll rant after.
5 minutes in this time. Yeah, because my Facebook will want to hear you rant on that.
Hey, it's 8:25 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News. Ladies and gentlemen, one final segment, hissecurity.com, hissecurity.com. My name's Mr. Henry. Sherry Voluntary to my right. Roz back there. Hey, introduce yourself one more time.
Scott Brokamp here from His Security.
Hissecurity.com, 865-474-9495. That's 474-9495. Now, I see a little tag up here at the top of the website. It says, new location, come see us, Kingston, Pike, and Knoxville. What areas are you currently servicing?
So we run pretty much about a 60-mile radius from our office or from Knoxville. So, that runs us pretty wide and pretty long. But what we have found is that if we don't run that kind of area, people over in Sevierville are like, well, that's too far away. Well, no, it's not. You're right there in our immediate metro area. We are a tight-knit community in the Knoxville community area. Great Smoky Mountains includes, Crossville area. We're pretty widespread in the East Tennessee area.
Now, you casually mentioned this before, and I didn't think to touch on it again at that time, but I'm looking here. Home entertainment's another thing you set up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? His security thinks security, but it's just, I'm looking at a beautiful home movie screening place right here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, who doesn't like watching movies with real theater sound and
7.1, man.
In home?
7.1? Give me some 7.1. Roz knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Now we're doing 9.4.2.
Are you? Really?
Oh, man. Dolby Atmos and... Listen, it's you know what? If you have the budget for it, you'll make Regal Cinemas look like, nothing. You know
Roz,
what I'm saying?
We're going to hang out after the show.
Real life.
We're going to watch some movies in a private studio. You can't come, all right? Yeah, that's right. Later. She says
man.
Rude. I asked you before what areas you're covering, and I didn't think one might assume incorrectly that it's just residential. You cover commercial as well.
We do it all. So we do residential, commercial, industrial. We've got clients anywhere from a little 800 square foot studio up to 6-acre manufacturing facilities. So there's no job too big or too small. We handle it all. Hey, there's a new tagline. But in reality, what we do, like I said, being a low voltage company, nobody knows what that is. And so it handles anything from networking. We do access points. We, especially in new construction residential, the biggest thing is making sure when you move into that house, you're able to have good Wi-Fi throughout the house.
Yeah.
So we do that. We are a full service technology solution provider. It's really what we are.
This was just said off air to me, and I'm going to go ahead and steal it and call it my own. You guys are in the business of providing solutions. I think that's a fantastic way to say it. Are those solutions, obviously they're much more complex when you get to a commercial area. Is there anything you've run across so far where the company said, whoa, this is a bit too much?
No, normally when they have a problem, usually that problem needs to be solved. And so we have come up with some crazy problems that we have found some great solutions, transmitting video wirelessly with point-to-point wireless scenarios. We've got a couple of facilities that, we just ended up stringing fiber all throughout the facility to be able to handle the backbone to provide access control and video solution throughout the manufacturing facility. So, same thing in residential areas. I love one personally for myself. We had a customer who was out in the middle of nowhere, and he had some cameras, and he said, listen, all I need is if somebody gets in this house, I needed to set off a siren for the guy up the hill to come run down.
Yeah.
And literally, having a monitored security system would have done him zero good because a cop never would have found it. I had to have him guide me in there, right? So,
one of those places.
But somebody stumbled upon it and vandalized the joint. So what we ended up doing is we hooked up a motion detector to a timer relay to a light switch to make it look like it was just a regular light switch. So he could flip that switch on, and if somebody walked in there, it would blare the loudest siren that we could find. We actually had 3 of them, and and lo and behold, he called me one day and said, "Hey, the neighbor run down, and whoever vandaled the place before they called us apparently came back."
Like, I don't know if this is going to be controversial to say in East Tennessee, but I might be more fearful of the random next door neighbor running down than I might the police officer showing up. No, I'm not. That's a joke. But all right, everything's connected now. I mean, we're to the point where your refrigerator's talking to you. Okay, the whole house is connected. What do you see the new paradigm shift? What's that next step? Is there something out there on the horizon? Are we going to be monitoring our house with drones? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's already out.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. It came out, what did it come out? What, Christine, 4 years ago? 3-4 years ago? And so you can actually, you set these little perimeter pods out around your perimeter. And so when it detects different items, like vibration was one, sound was another, the drone would lift up from its home spot and go to that area. I don't think they've got it to a point of being cost effective to be it produced. It was one, like UK is creating a lot of this cool technology. Honestly, I think more than anything, what we're going to see is we're going to start seeing some regulation and mandate on these products. UK is pushing really hard that when these people create these Wi-Fi enabled devices, that you're forced to change the password, that you're forced to put some security encryption in place because it's just not there right now. I mean, you hear stories all the time. Somebody bought a $9 lamp module that was on clearance at Home Depot. Or I probably shouldn't say the name of the stores, but anyway, so they plug it in, they go home, and there's no security criteria whatsoever, and now there's the latest DOD gets in there and shuts it down, denial of service, and you're out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We're living in the future, y'all.
No, we are.
Yeah, exactly. There's no doubt.
Amazing.
I mean, we truly are, and half the people are saying, "Well, I don't have anything to hide." Well, it's not necessarily about that, right? It's really not.
It's not. No, it's not about that. I mean, I joke all the time that hey, where's your cloud at, and who's in control of your cloud, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're looking at what I'm doing in my life, look, you're going to see 2 beautiful kids and my beautiful wife, but that's about it. I mean, my life's boring besides that, but. It's not about that. It's about creating headaches. It's about creating havoc. It's about, I was reading another article, these high school kids who were playing around, and they ended up they provided denial of service to a device. So here's what happens. You may not know, but denial of service, it makes that nice, fancy device you have turn into a brick.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. And so, but at that point, you now have outside access into your network.
Hey, can I ask you, I'm already pushing Roz late for a break here, but I've always wanted to ask someone that actually knows what they're talking about. I could just ask Daniel on Facebook, too. What actually is a DDoS attack? I mean, what's actually happening there?
So what's happening is basically it's a bot or a program that is going in through the back door into your device, and at that point, it is infiltrating your network, so it's putting a credential or a code into your network to be able to capture any information that's running through your network, right? They can give them the portal to get into your personal computer and actually watch what you're typing in your computer. So when you're doing your online banking, they can get all your information. But mainly, most of what they're doing is they're just going in and they're basically just denying the service. They're shutting it off. They're severing it from working, and basically it's just it is today's form of mischief, really.
Yeah. You going to say something, Roz?
I was going to ask, do you guys provide the invisible fence for your dogs?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, final question, best question of the day. Do you, sir, have a piece of tape on your camera in front top of the laptop? Yeah, somebody did in the studio.
Yeah, I do not, but for the longest time, I actually had gone in and shut my camera off. You can actually go shut that thing off.
Oh, that's easier to do.
You don't have to just put tape on it.
I think it's great. Security systems are one of those things because nobody wants to have to use their gun, right?
Yeah, right.
And so it's about incentives. That's one of the reasons that we want an armed society, because if you don't know that someone's armed or not, you're less likely to break in their house. And security is another thing that it provides it's a disincentive for police. They'll rob your neighbor instead because they don't have it. Or not for police, for criminals.
Right. Yeah. I always ask people, would you have homeowners insurance or car insurance if you didn't have to?
Yeah, of course, right.
Okay. And most people say yes. Okay. So then why don't you want to protect that investment? Why do you not want to add a layer of security into that?
Hey, one last time, hissecurity.com, hissecurity.com, 865-474-9495. That's 865-474-9495. 866-277-9595. In God we trust, all others we monitor. Got to hit this break, 8:34. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
We will hit this break. Be right back.
Hey, one last time, hissecurity.com, hissecurity.com, 865-474. Not bad, worse. Hey, thanks, y'all.
Oh, thank you.
Good stuff.
That's fun, man.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming through.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Hey, so you know, we got about close to 10 minutes on this break, by the way. You know about Recode.
Yeah.
All right, before you give me your opinion, this is what I ask everybody. With all sincerity, only about 3 to 5% of people that I ever ask this question, and I ask a lot, know what Recode is. How did you find out about it?
Because I interact with a lot of architects, engineers, real estate people, and stuff like that. So that's half the world I live in.
Okay. How long have you known about it? Because I'm doing this program for close to 3 years. I just stumbled upon this because our producer sent Nick Delavolpe in here like 8 months ago. I haven't known much at all.
A couple of years.
Years?
Yeah.
So you're one of the first. All right, so where are you standing on it?
Okay, so the thing is that back in the 70s, you know, when they started kind of messing around with how they wanted the municipal planning people, they restricted certain areas from certain kinds of, you know, like
I'm following you here.
The old neighborhoods.
Yeah,
you couldn't live in your building anymore. You could only use it for business. And so they made all these changes, and it was to the detriment of the city because there's certain neighborhoods that kind of became less desirable because people weren't living in them. They weren't engaging with each other, and so you have corridors that became business only, and they kind of disintegrated.
Sure.
So this code has been in place since the 70s. It's never been updated, even though they know it's not working. And so they finally said, we have to update it.
Gotcha.
Which is good. But some, you know, it's politics. So some of the machinations going on around it is not good.
Right.
And the problem is the people, they're trying to encourage people, you know, neighborhood groups and business alliances and stuff to get involved, to offer up their opinion. But like you said, nobody really knew. And now everybody's going, wait a minute.
Right, I know, yeah.
And you know.
At draft 4, everyone's now finally coming around. And look, I think there's enough blame to throw around for days. From the people that you talk to, how many people do you think on an average basis know what Recode is? Is it similar to what I say, somewhere between 5%? Yeah, really?
Yeah, it's low. The people that know more about it are the people that live in those neighborhoods that would like to reclaim them. When you get into the North Knoxville corridor and places like that, you know, they want to develop it back into a functioning, active neighborhood where people live and work and engage, and there's walking space, and you know, where it becomes a neighborhood again.
From the people that you're interacting with, are they? I don't want to say in support of it. That's a maybe sure in support of it, or at least find it to be a necessity. We had seen a scene Verizon here. That was kind of her take. Is like, oh, look, I'm not advocating one way or another. Something needs to be done. Was her point.
Yes, everybody, because like I said, it hasn't really been addressed since the 70s. And they know that a lot of the stuff that was put into place back then is detrimental to a functioning city. So they know it's got to be dealt with, but there's parts that they don't agree with, parts they do. Everybody kind of has opinion on the pieces and parts. But as a whole, everybody agrees it's got to be addressed, because if you keep kicking the can down the road, it just gets worse.
Well, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. And I asked all this probing question because I'm trying to get a genuine sense as to how people feel about it. Now, unfortunately, we're, a week away from this vote. At this point, it may already be on the books, right? It may be totally codified, said and done, so it may not be worth the conversation. But at least from the portions of my audience, from the people that I've spoken to, there seems to be a general conception, based on reality or not, that nobody knows about it, that there was somewhat of reliance on either city council's behalf or NPC's behalf, that they didn't want people to know about it. The sense is that people don't feel like they have a voice on this. And now when they're trying to make a big stink about it here at the end, it feels like no one is listening to them. Do you get a sense from that at all, from anybody you're talking to?
Not really. I think it's more people weren't paying attention. And it's like anything else in city government. There's plenty of stuff that if you don't go look for it and engage and go to the meetings and everything else, you're not going to know. I mean, we deal with it with building codes. They just got through redoing all the building codes and bringing them up to a new standard. there was not a lot of communication. You had to go seek it out. They post the public notices, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's about all they do. That's true. They do meet the minimum legal compliance for sure. Facebook, by the way, if you don't know what we're talking about, Recode Knoxville is a comprehensive rezoning package. 73,000 plots of land in the city, 80% of which are residential. It's basically just trying to update for the either inevitable densification or just changing something that potentially needs to be changed. That's what we're talking about today. And I'll say to the notice that you're talking about, it seems like a lot of people that listen to the show would say, somebody called in one time, gave me some information that in the 11th hour, so to speak, December of last year, City Council passed an ordinance that says, look, as far as pertains to comprehensive rezoning packages, we don't actually have to mail notices. We can just put it in a publication. So they put it in Knox News and sort of perpetuates this cycle that nobody really knows until it is too late. And then you start asking questions and...
Well, and and there's a new phase of government now. You get people like Glenn Jacobs and even Tim Burchett when he was mayor of the county. They tweet, they use social media, they try and do a little bit more engagement with their constituency. I think on the city, my experience and what I've heard is that people wish there was more of that on a city level, and that's what I think maybe we're all getting used to being communicated with on some levels, and the city maybe doesn't do as good of a job. That's what I've heard.
I hear you. Yeah.
And I think a lot of what we see too is that usually we're relying on our trade associations or associations like Home Builders Association of Greater Knoxville and stuff like that to pick up these pieces and then send them out to their people, and whether it's we're relying on other people to give us the info. So
I gotta get back on.
All right,
personal responsibility. If you want to know what's going on, you got to plug in.
I hear you. Hey, thanks for joining us, man. We'll see y'all next time.
Nice to meet you, Sherry.
You too.
Have a great day.
You too.
Song describing what you should do to your wife while she's sleeping. Just poke her in the face. Wake her up.
It's a good way to get shot.
Yeah. It's the type of comedy you should get used to in this program. It's hard-hitting, makes you laugh.
Or like dad jokes.
What?
They're like
Everyone
horrible.
loves dad jokes. Come on. Dads love dad jokes.
No, yeah, exactly. Dads love dad jokes.
I think that's why they're so funny, is because only dads love them. Yeah. And dads can then say, you guys just don't get it.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm going to go to Recode Michael here. It's interesting that he's calling in right now, or rather serendipitous, I should say. And I really want to get Sherry Voluntary's take on this, and her folks from Facebook she's brought over. Let me lay this out one more time. Our Real News audience doesn't need a recap of this, but Sherry's audience might, all right? So what we're bringing up is Recode Knoxville. Now, this is a similar proposal that has been put through in, I don't know, man. I mean, we can go down a list of cities.
Yeah, it's a national.
Yeah.
It may be even international thing.
Now,
I don't know.
To lay out the factual information, at least just for Sherry's folks, I don't want to lend any sense of bias or potential motivation into this right now. Just what Recode is. It's been told that we haven't changed zoning since about the last 50, 60 years. There is an inevitable point that we do need to change the zoning in Knoxville. So currently, the issue of Recode is a package. It's called a comprehensive rezoning package. Doesn't sound like a very sexy political topic. I get it. But think about it this way. Any city that you live in the United States, we have somebody from India, right?
Yes.
One of your people from India, right?
Raja.
Whatever city you're living in across the country, across the world at this point, Knoxville has 73,000 plots of land. Now, 80% of those 73,000 plots of land are currently under zoning of residential zoning. The idea being it's a comprehensive rezone of all 73,000 plots of land. Now, that should be enough to get everyone on the same page. You fill in the blanks. Had a very interesting conversation for Facebook to catch some of at least what I'll be honest about in case those individuals listening out was it was an alternate perspective that I had not heard before. With that being said, let's go to Recode Mike on line one, setting this up a little bit more for us. I'll go to Sherry after that. Recode Mike, what's on your mind? Recode Michael, what's on your mind, buddy?
Well, I just want to start off and remind everyone we are 7 days away from the vote on the first reading, the first vote on Recode at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd like you all to put up on the Facebook page how to contact your city council members. I would advise everyone to call your city council members and tell them, do not hold a vote at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That is unfair to everyone. You cannot get a parking place at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a promise made in the last workshop by the city council members that we would have a workshop on draft spots. I expect them to honor their word. Now, I want to just take a moment and say something about Recode. We have done form-based code. We have done mixed-use development. We have done accessory dwelling units. We've already done those things. We don't have to have Recode to do them. You just simply get a variance. There is a large apartment complex on Cumberland Avenue that has shops on the lower floor. We have another one on Central Street. Same thing, shops on apartments above. We've had accessory dwelling units in Sequoia Hills for probably 100 years now. We don't have to have Recode. There are some myths that have been put forth in bad faith, and I want to address the most important myth. We keep hearing that our zoning is 60 years old, that it's stale, it's stagnant, it's obsolete, it's not been updated. That is not true. It's been updated every single year. Could you play that soundbite from Mayor O'Hara from Tennessee this week, where she admits the entire premise of Recode is based on a myth?
Yeah, I actually have it pulled up here. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. It's going to be a weird way I got to do it because the audio file is in mono. Sherry, it's going to be strange. I'm going to have to steal your mic for 2 seconds here. Here we go. This is great radio. Live radio. Here we go.
Recode Knoxville. There are still many people in the city unsure about what's in it. What's your message to those people who still not really sure?
Well, first I want to thank all the people who have participated, the hundreds, thousands of people who have participated over the last 2.5 years on Recode. Everything that we have done.
Her pause, not mine.
All of this is online. If you go to Recode Knoxville, Google that, and you can get a lot of information. If you have questions, call the MPC, their Knox County Planning Office, and they would be glad to answer questions as well. But the reality is we're at a point where we need to vote. We need to move it on. This will be a living document, much like the zoning code that we've had for the last 50-plus years. If we got something wrong, the council can change it. The Planning Commission and council can make changes to it. We intend to keep our stakeholders committee, who has been helping guide this throughout the process, very broad-based stakeholders meeting or committee. We will keep them in place so they can continue to monitor the implementation of Recode, and as we see problems or we see new opportunities, then we will be able to move on it.
I apologize for the audio quality there. We'll give Sherry her mic back. But hopefully that, Recode Michael, was that enough to be able to make out, by the way?
Sure. The audio quality was fine. What we just heard was Mayor Madeline O'Hara admit that the entire premise of Recode is based on a falsehood, that for the last 60 years our zoning code has been updated. Look, the problem with Recode is they're taking 60 years of zoning code and they're throwing it away. And in 2 years, they've tried to rewrite 60 years of code. It's humanly impossible to do that. We don't need this product, and this product has been put forth in bad faith. The people were not notified. It would be different if 80% of the people knew about this and they held a vote. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Let me ask you, Recode Michael.
Knew about it, it would be different.
There you go. Let me ask you then the follow up, and I'm only playing devil's advocate for the pure sake of playing this, right? Because I know we have Sherry's new people in here on Facebook. Some people might be listening as they're driving through right now. Democrat doesn't matter, right? What would you say then to the aspect of, well, there's a little bit of aspect of self responsibility here. Maybe someone should take it on their own behalf to go figure out if something is happening in their city.
Well, okay. First thing, let's talk about responsibility, and let's talk about the sheer irresponsibility of the Knoxville News Sentinel, WBIR, WAPE, and WVLT, and the Big Talker 98.7. There has been a media cover-up, a blackout on this. You cannot know what you cannot know. It's completely unfair to have this discussion about responsibility when there is a media blackout that's been done on purpose. Let's be very, very clear on who is covering this story. Real News, WETR 92.3.
That's right. That's right.
Huge. All right, we're talking about Steve Hunley at the Knoxville Focus. And the reason it's called the Knoxville Focus is their focus is on local issues to Knoxvillians. we have Sandra Clark's digital newspaper, knoxtoday.com, where Nick Delavolpe, a former council member, has written extensively on the technical issues of this. And then we have another digital paper behind a paywall called compassknox.com. I can't tell you what's there because I'm not a subscriber, but they have covered it. The bottom line is, it's patently unfair to move forward with something where only 5% of the people even know the word Recode. Of that 5%, how many people really know what this 425-page document is? Now, I have read this thing extensively, and I have spent half of my adult life in working with architects and engineers. It's not a good product because it came from a flawed process. You cannot take 60 years of zoning code and rewrite it in 2 years. It's just not possible. Now, what we need people to do is to contact their city council members. We want to ask them, go ahead before this May 14th meeting and cancel it. We want to have the Draft 5 workshop that you made a public commitment to have. Then, when we have the first vote on Recode, the people want this vote to be at 7 o'clock in the evening when there's free parking, and we want the public forum moved to the front of the meeting. Now, city council members need to understand something. They seem to be in fear of Mayor Rohero. I suggest to them they should be in much more fear of the people because it only takes 3,300 votes to recall 5 of the 9 of them. And those 5 people are subject in terms of the time. You cannot recall a council member within the first 2 years. In December, those 2 years are up. In December, signatures can be collected. Look, I'm not suggesting that we have a revolution and remove half the government, but unless we're respected, then that is what has to happen.
Yeah, I think my question, because I am very skeptical of government, is why do they want to force this? And I'm in agreement with you. We don't need it. And so the reason that I conclude they want it is power. I mean, you can see all across the country there are tons of stories where they're using zoning codes to keep certain types of souvenir shops out of New Orleans, or shut down a tree house in Fairfax County, Virginia, things like that. So,
Jerry, let's talk about power. Here's something you might not know. You know how many real estate agents in the city of Knoxville work out of their own home and have other employees? If Recode is passed, and you're a real estate agent, or you're a CPA, or you're an attorney, or you're a tech person, you are limited to only the members of your family that can be employed. You cannot have one additional employee that is not related to you.
Yeah.
That is patently unfair. It's going to have an economic burden on the people. And you know, the bottom line is, it is about power. Mayor Rohero, she should voluntarily cancel this meeting because it's Mayor Rohero that scheduled the 3 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
And it was in poor form. It's one of the worst things she's ever done. Call Mayor Rohero and demand that she cancel the meeting and demand that she respect the people.
Hey, Recode Michael, as always, buddy, I appreciate your call. 8:53, we got to hit this break, man. I'm going to throw all that information out there that you just gave us one more time. That vote is coming up, y'all. That vote is absolutely coming up. Regardless of what you think about Recode, I said it yesterday. It's Recode today. I'm not sure what it might be tomorrow. If you want your voice heard, if this is your biggest concern, if your biggest concern is that you feel, justified or unjustified, that your voice is not being heard, you have to show up to these places. And I know it's difficult, 3 o'clock. That's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about. That's
people
the
work
push.
during 3 o'clock, too. Most people are at work at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, that's another reason why Recode Michael brought up the elderly situation, is trying to figure out parking for elderly individuals, the whole public transportation. Roberta called in one day and said, look, I'm near legally blind. What do you want me to do? You going to follow me around on a bus? Go grocery shopping with me? I mean, we're going to make that commitment?
Oh, no, they're not going to make it hard for them.
Right.
Just us.
Hey, either way, 8:54 now. Recode Michael, buddy. I always appreciate hearing from you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Hey, are we coming back, Ross? What are we doing here? Yeah? We're going to rush Limbaugh him? No? We're going to hit the whole break? All right, yeah, hit this break, come back with our incredible guest talking about Schaeffer Cox. Be right back.
break?
Yeah, we usually do, but
Okay.
we push so long, she
Okay.
has to combine all those things together.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure.
I gotta figure if we're calling him or what they're calling us.
Phone over.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, Jordan's. Well, come on now. Come on now, look at you. Having folks' numbers that I ain't got.
No, I got them hookups. I got that connection.
Hopefully this is not him right now. I hate wasting good guest time. Facebook, by the way, if you can't tell already, if you want to share these people, this is live radio. That's what happens, man. It's a little bit of voyeuristic look into the window that is off-air live radio. Doing it. So anyways, yeah, it's not a normal format. Gonna have to break it up, man. I hate breaking up good guests like this, but gotta pay them bills, I guess. Somebody's bills.
Get paid.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're calling us at 9:05. All right.
Recode is amazingly informed and accurate. Zoning laws are a bunch of crap.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that's how it's government overreach. Completely what they're doing. To say that you can't have an employee in your home, they're encroaching more on your property rights than they already do. And people are just like they're steamrolling it. Why?
Well,
they want power in your life.
Yeah. Oh, was that him? Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, well, are you supposed to be like a guest or something? Like, what's going on?
Oh,
I
no.
didn't know.
He's a really nice guy. Sure.
Yeah, well, I told him he could hold for 10 minutes or call back. He said he'll call back.
Yeah. It was the credit to Richard. It was in the email to call it 906 or something.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's not on you.
I thought it was Richard. Okay.
No.
Jiffy Lube for all of your tire alignment aids.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at
Get your
more
prep on.
stuff here. Yeah.
All right, Mevo audio is on you. I'm gonna focus the camera directly on your face.
Great.
Actually, I'm gonna move this over so I can get you. People want to be looking at me. Now they'll get you and my terrible Trump buttons.
Those are amazing.
Do you like them?
buttons. I love them.
I gotta show you the thing my wife got me. It's the thing I can't put up in the studio. It's better than all these others.
Wait.
Hey, Facebook, Sherry's people may not have seen this. Look at this. This is our mayor. Oh, I know that. I know everything that's going on, Roz.
What?
She said, "Tell me we're not coming back."
Oh. I need to eat my cereal bar. I'm hungry.
All right, I'll be back in a sec. Hey, Sherry.
Uh-huh.
You posting the feed links to your stuff, or Daniel does that afterwards?
Oh, no, I probably should though.
Sweet.
I just had a question. What does the red hat say? It says Trump And Walmart making America worse. I don't know why it's a dig at Walmart, but watch me eat my.
Inspirational significance. I think that's a very benign way of saying that the people are there because of their political beliefs.
Only one journalist, William Potter, has ever been allowed in the CMU.
There are two CMUs. One was opened inside the prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, and the other is inside this prison in Marion, Illinois. Neither of them underwent the formal review process that is required by law when they were opened.
As a result, Potter wound up on an FBI watch list. Fortunately, Schaeffer Cox was able to fight
there because of their political beliefs.
Only one journalist, William Potter, has ever been allowed in the CMU.
There are two CMUs. One was opened inside the prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, and the other is inside this prison in Marion, Illinois. Neither of them underwent the formal review.
June 2016, I was able to visit Schaeffer Cox while he was in general population in Marion, Illinois. He spent about 6 months in Gen Pop in between the state and communications management unit. During this time period, he was allowed to have contact visitors for like 6 hours, or so for like 6 hours, 2 days in a row. During this time, he explained to me how he was exposing pedophilia rings in Alaska. I just wanted to take a second to explain that to you. So the year that he was campaigning to run for the Alaskan State House of Representatives, he went all around the state and met lots of different people from lots of different walks of life and asked them what concerns they had and what kinds of things that they felt needed changed in the state of Alaska. He started to notice this pattern of a disturbing story of families who would have their child removed by OCS, which is the Office of Child Services, because maybe they weren't compliant with drugs. And they would remove their child, tell them to complete these courses and to stay clean, and then after a few months, their child was returned back home to them. When their child came home, they were clearly traumatized and afraid of adults. And so people started asking questions, seeing what was going on, and Schaeffer heard of a home in Anchorage, Alaska called the Ocean View House. And in this home, this was like a brothel where there were children as young as 5 that were being used as sex slaves. And the people that were visiting this home were state judges and prosecutors and troopers, etc. I think that's pretty
Hey, are you talking to his Facebook, entertaining him?
I'm a little. I told him to share the show, saying hi to everybody, and then
Nice.
also that Jordan will be on around 9:06.
It's Angela. I knew it was Angela.
Oh, it is Angela. Okay.
Wait.
Are you sure?
Why did Jordan call before?
I think it's Jordan. That's what he said last night. I talked to him and he said.
Oh, it's not that time.
Who's this person?
Did Jordan call previously?
Yes.
Yeah, this is all confusing. All right,
He said that he's going to call back, and then now this chick's saying that she's supposed to call in about the Schaeffer Cox thing.
all right. This is what I think happened. Richard booked it with Angela.
Oh my god.
I think Sherry confirmed with Jordan last night. We
I
prefer to
just- it was
have
an accident.
no.
No, it's
because
fine.
Richard originally set it up with
I'm
Jordan.
just super confused.
Yeah. This is gonna be really mean to do, but I want someone on here to talk about this. So keep Angela on hold up until, and hopefully Jordan calls back, which he probably will in the next couple of minutes.
So just go with Angela right now.
No, well, are we?
Ask her if Jordan's calling.
Yeah, let me. If I could go talk to her, I'll handle it. Hang on.
Possibly have them both.
Possibly what? Both?
Well,
Maybe.
they did that with somebody else. Hang on. All right. Okay. All right. It's going to be a little bit weird driving this thing. We got Jordan and Angela on at the same time. We'll make for a good segment, though, at least.
That's his song.
And these walls stretch out like an ocean, like a dream where I'm waiting for the world to wake from its sleep. Haven't I given all? Here I stand, ere I fall. Someday soon I'll be free. What a day that will be.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Radio 92.3 FM and AM 760. This is Real News. We are broadcasting live from the FMT Insurance Studios. My name is Mr. Henry. Sherry Voluntary sitting to my right. Beautiful Roz back there pushing the buttons, running the board. We have two fantastic guests on the line right now. Let me just tell you the website here. FreeSchaeffer.com. I'll spell that for you if you need me to. FreeSchaeffer.com. Let me start with you, Jordan. That was a song done by you. How did you get involved with this organization to start with?
Well, I had heard Schaeffer Cox's name, many times through the years and just never took the time to look into him, but I knew who he was. I had friends who knew him. And last year, I was performing at an event in Spokane, Washington, called the Red Pill Expo, and a friend walked up to me, a person I didn't know very well, but I admired his work with fully informed jury associations, and his name is Bob Smiley. He came up to me and just handed me a book and said, "You need to have this book." And it was The Lost Lyrics of Schaeffer Cox. And so I read this book, and it really just kind of blew me away. It was 60 songs that Schaeffer had written while incarcerated, and it broke my heart. And I decided to reach out, and I got a hold of a friend who I knew Schaeffer and was always posting about Schaeffer, and she introduced me to Angela Clemons, who is the president of Schaeffer's Angels, which is the nonprofit organization that handles his legal defense. And we decided that they were going to help me produce a song about Schaeffer to raise public awareness about his case and about his story and what's been happening with him. And it's been really an amazing experience. And the song is called "The Persecution of Schaeffer Cox." We released a music video for it on March 10th, which was the anniversary of his unlawful arrest. And we've just been doing lots and like a national press campaign to explain, what his story is and how this all came about, and why this innocent man is being held in a black state prison outside of congressional oversight and congressional approval.
Maybe we can talk a little bit, Jordan. Hi, it's nice to speak with you again.
Hey, Sherry.
Looking at Jordan or at Schaeffer's story, I was sort of the same as you. I'd heard the name. I didn't really know a lot about this issue, about what has happened to him until the past year. And when I was reading through this material, I kept thinking, this is a man like everybody here in East Tennessee. Like he's a he's a guy that loved his family. He liked to hunt, fish, just enjoy the natural resources. And he got involved in politics because he saw that there were problems, like so many people do, and just wanted to change things in his area. And so maybe you can go into a little bit about how that happened, or Angela, either one. Who is Schaeffer, and where did he start, and how did he end up in this situation?
Well, Schaeffer was an up-and-coming politician in Alaska, and he is exactly as you described him. He's a husband, a father, son of a pastor, a patriot. I mean, he is. He's no different than the multitude of liberty-minded activists who wanted to take part. He was in part of the Ron Paul revolution, just like myself. And as he was campaigning for a state house position, he was running for office. He became aware of a massive child trafficking and drug trafficking ring being perpetrated by elected officials, from the court systems to police, CPS. It ran up the chain in Alaska. And he did the one thing that you don't do when you're poking the bear, and he named names.
Oh, wow.
And once, because he basically traced it all to, a group of specific people who were the ringleaders, and he called them out publicly. That got the attention of the dark elements in our government, and he became under surveillance between 2009 and 2011. They sent the federal government sent 2 career criminal informants to infiltrate his life and his circle of friends. They recorded him for 2 years, trying to incite him to violence. They were trying to get him to say he would do something violent. And he always rejected that because he is a voluntarist. He believes in peace. He believes in non-aggression. And his famous quote, which I included in the video for the song, is, "If they ever come for me, I'm going to pull a Gandhi, not a Rambo." And because they couldn't couldn't pin anything on him, they charged him with conspiracy. When they don't have anything to charge you with, they charge you with conspiracy.
That's the truth, isn't that right?
Because it can mean anything they want it to mean.
It can mean anything they want it to mean. You're absolutely right. And so they charged him with solicitation to murder federal agents and conspiracy to murder federal agents. And in 2000, it's very important. A couple of points are really, really important here. One is that the case against Schaeffer was a state case in Alaska, and it was thrown out for lack of evidence. He wasn't even found guilty or not guilty. There was no evidence against him. They played the tapes that the FBI had, and there was no evidence to even try the case, so it was thrown out. While he was still incarcerated, however, the federal government superseded its own jurisdiction. It does not have the jurisdiction to try these kind of cases. It came back and they tried him illegally. Again, they moved him from Alaska down to Washington so that no witnesses could testify on Schaeffer's behalf. They refused all the tapes that proved his innocence. The judge was brought out of retirement because no federal judges would hear this nonsense case that had already been thrown out. So they bring this older judge out of retirement, and he refused to allow those tapes to be played. The prosecution withheld 500 pages of exculpatory evidence that proved Schaeffer's innocence because the original case was thrown out. They tried him again illegally and refused to allow this information to be shown, and the jury found him guilty. The judge gave him 26 years. Okay, so he's an innocent man who was completely railroaded by the criminal justice system. It was weaponized against him to shut him down because he was calling out the dirty secret, which is Pizzagate, which is the child trafficking ring.
And real news audience, if you just have joined us, we're talking about the story of Schaeffer Cox. That website is freeschaeffer.com. We are also joined on the line, by the way, with Angela Clemons, the president of Schaeffer's Angel and part of legal team. And Angela, if I can direct this question to you, you just heard Jordan set this up a second ago about the charismatic nature, the overwhelming, magnanimous man that was Schaeffer Cox, a fairly prominent political figure and voice in this area. Now, I know Schaeffer was big on spreading libertarian or liberty-based messages, even bringing the Articles of Freedom back to Alaska. Here's the question that I have, though. The things he was saying, it seems like by way of a strategy, he could be very easy off as nothing more than an Alex Jones conspiracy theorist. You could have gotten rid of him that way. You called him a kook.
To first say that a lot of times people say, yeah, he was this and he was this and a great speaker. And I want to say he still is a really great speaker, and he still is a really great writer. And a lot of his writings are on the website, and we're going to put them together in a book. But like Jordan was saying, when he ran for office there, he learned about the child sex trafficking in a house called an Ocean View house, and that connected with the drug trafficking because they hit each other. So the politicians said, we will ignore what we see with your drug trafficking, and the law enforcement and the people involved in that said, okay, and we will ignore what we see with the child trafficking. So it was kind of like they hit each other. He just has the ability to lead, to inspire, to encourage. People are drawn to him. He is just like you said, magnanimous leader. He has, I think, a pastor's heart. His father is a pastor. His grandfather, who is deceased, was also a pastor. So he just has that personality that people are drawn to him, and people love him. But he loves people too. He loves so many different kinds of people, and that's part of why even the people in his circle that were trying to incite him to violence, he's the kind of person that would try to inspire them to a different way. So he's not like, okay, I'm cutting you off, we're never talking again. He would continue to try to befriend people to, change them or encourage them to a better way.
And I'll tell you, it's really difficult covering stories like this on live radio because we get broken up by the commercial breaks. I really want to give you all an opportunity to plug websites and what the message is and what you all are actually needing. Can you all hang through a couple more segments for us here? I want to get this message out to everybody.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, I'll put both of them back on hold here. We'll hit this break coming up, 9:20 in the morning. Much more to come from both of our fantastic guests. One more time, website, freeschaeffer.com, SCHAEFFER, freeschaeffer.com, 9:20. Be right back.
I just actually found a song that was recovered from his phone before he left for prison, too.
Schaeffer's phone?
Yeah, that he sung.
Awesome. All right, yeah. Listen to this on the way out.
Good men, keep on giving. First to live may be the first to die. Among the faithful, among the few, will I be able to do what no one else was willing to do?
The Lars Larson.
I don't know, actually. I don't know how much time we have with them. I'd like to do the whole hour, unless you think it's getting too dry. Yeah. I'll ask him on air. We'll get awkward with it. Facebook, y'all got any questions for the guests? If you just joined us, Jordan Page, Angela Clemons, website, freeschaeffer.com, obviously the Schaeffer Cox story. Let's quarterback this, Sherry. What do you want to come back in with?
I was going to talk a little bit about how, when people hear, sex trafficking and drug, they think conspiracy, this is kooky stuff.
Yeah.
But if you'll remember, we have the church hearings that came out and showed the FBI was placing agent provocateurs in the anti-war movement and the Black Panthers. Hoover said he wanted an agent behind every mailbox. They ran rampant. We had the Boys Town scandals in the 80s where that was sex trafficking.
They just arrested 82 people last weekend alone in that southern states thing, right, for sex trafficking.
So this stuff happens, and we have evidence of these things already in society.
Right.
So to call this a conspiracy is not really fair, I think.
But I guess he wrote a letter to somebody. It might be this chick, I don't know, but she's explaining. He's explaining in this letter what his conditions are, basically in the prison.
Is it from the website?
No, it's on YouTube. So, but it's him explaining what his conditions are or whatnot. It's like it's 4 minutes long. So cut me off whenever you want to.
We can ask them about that too, because I'm sure that Angela, she's in contact with him. I'm sure she can talk about his conditions.
760 to answer those questions and provide you information.
I'll bring it back in. Ask that question to Angela. Give her a little bit more time to talk. If she can clarify what that video was about, to expand upon it a little bit more, and then I'll need to kick it to you because I think it's a great question to go off of.
Which one?
What you just said of look, everyone's saying this is conspiracy theory for the.
Yeah.
In there right now tonight, being tortured. I thought you might like to hear what he has to say. He says, "You asked about conditions in the hole. It's down on the lowest level, back in the back. It feels like a cave. The cells are so small you can stand in the center and touch the walls on both sides, as well as the ceiling above, which are metal, damp, and stink like vomit. There is a combination sink, toilet, urinal, drinking fountain, but it's one piece, all in one metal fixture that is flaking with rust and caked with decades of crud. Mine had a cockroach nest behind it."
Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Henry. Ross, can you bring these both back on air for me here? Joined right now by Angela Clemons. Jordan Page. Website is freeschaeffer.com. Angela, let me go back to you here. I hope you could hear that audio we just played there. Could you expound upon a little bit of what we were just hearing?
Yes, that was part of the being in the hole. In addition, there's been several reports of different kinds of tortures in the CMU, and also not just in the CMU, but in prisons. I know Schaeffer's been exposed to extreme temperature deviations, where they'll it'll be so hot he can barely touch the floor with his feet, and then it gets so cold that the toilet bowl freezes, the water in the toilet freezes. He's been exposed to extreme sleep deprivation. They've been chained for long periods of time, 4-point shackled where his hands and feet are chained to the bed.
What is the? I
It's
get
unconscionable.
Well, but I don't know the way to ask this question, Sherry. What is the legal? What kind of prison is this? What prison is this? What
It's
is?
called a black site prison. There are many across the country. This is a particular kind called a CMU, and maybe Angela can tell us a little bit more about that.
But it's in Indiana, right? What is this? Guantanamo in Indiana? Is that what's happening, Angela? What are we talking about?
Yeah, they call it Little Gitmo. They say that it took the place of Guantanamo Bay, although that wasn't completely shut down. So, in November there was actually a murder there. It's primarily Muslim population. In November, the few Christian guys there's about 40 guys, or 30 to 40 guys in this one in Indiana called the Communication Management Unit. There's a second one that we know about in Marion, Illinois. This one's in Terre Haute, Indiana, and they are meant for Muslims, but they have to put a few other people in there. They call them balancers, so that they don't get in trouble for targeting one type of population. Schaeffer is considered a balancer. Most people, when they get into the CMU, they convert to Islam because their life is threatened. And Schaeffer has never broke with his beliefs as a Christian man, and has never converted to Islam. In November, they were having a little Bible study, the guys that are Christians, and the Muslims came in and they tied a tie around the guy's neck and bound his hands, and they attempted to behead him there in the cell. Then they grabbed a second guy and they stabbed him 12 times. And one of the larger prisoners, Christian man named Kurt Johnson, stood up and said, "That's enough." And they finally backed down. So when all of this is happening, the guards go and lock themselves away to wait for a SWAT team to come, which takes about 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's a very dangerous place, and their lives are being threatened every single day. And I don't think I mentioned also, but a lot of the guys have scurvy and beriberi, which are starvation diseases. They just don't feed them. They don't feed them well enough. They don't care about their nutrition.
Right. What does CMU stand for?
Communication Management Unit.
Right, and that's I had listened somewhere, and it said that they put people there when they say it's persons of inspirational significance, and basically that means that they're there for their political views. I think William Potter, the journalist who was allowed in there, who is now on a federal watch list, by the way, for talking about what he saw there. That he said that thing, that this is basically code for they're there for their political beliefs. And I mean, anyone can go on YouTube and listen to Schaeffer speak, and you will see that this is a man who loves his country. He is not any kind of traitor to his country. He is someone who wanted people to stand up for the rights that they have, and to pull together as a community to say this is not acceptable in our community. And he was really trying to expose those dark, sort of forces. And, I think about when you hear the word conspiracy, people often, they jump to, they can just dismiss everything, because you hear child sex trafficking and you think, oh, that's implausible. And the DEA running drugs, oh, that's implausible. But we have evidence of that right now. We have information about the CIA injecting crack into American communities. We have the Boys Town sex trafficking. There's a ton of information on that online. The church hearings of the 1980s, where the anti-war movement, the Black Panthers, that the FBI actually admitted that, or it was found that they injected agent provocateurs into these movements in order to incite them to violence, and then things like Ruby Ridge that everybody knows about. Schaeffer's story sounds a lot like Ruby Ridge to me, where they injected someone to try and get him to break the law. So that would be my question: is is this just made up stuff? Is it something can be dismissed or?
Yeah, and I would have a follow-up is asking in similar context, and maybe even if Jordan was responding to some, what do you do with the naysayers saying, look, he had his day in court. It's done. It's conspiracy theory all pushing now. He had his second day in court. He was convicted. He's found guilty. What do you, I'm sure you get some of that. What do you make of that?
Well, it's important for people to understand that in 2017, his solicitation charge was dropped. Okay, so he is continuing to serve this 26-year sentence on a conspiracy charge. Conspiracy is a nonsensical charge, and it stands to reason that without a solicitation, there can be no conspiracy. You can't conspire if you don't solicit someone. So they're holding him on a conspiracy charge, with the other major charge already having been dropped. So he has a resentencing this year in November.
I thought so, right.
And the judge in this case has ordered that all that exculpatory evidence be released. So, to the naysayers, I would say do your research. And, go to freeschaeffer.com and read the story. Look at the evidence. I mean, it's entirely indicative of an innocent man being railroaded and framed for quite literally a crime that never happened. I can't stress that enough. He is in prison for what essentially amounts to thought crime. There was no crime committed. They've accused him of trying to murder people, but there's no identifiable target. In fact, at a hearing a couple of years ago, the judge asked, if I solicit someone to kill Mickey Mouse, would that count?
Interesting.
Because there is no target.
Interesting.
And he has just been, like as I said before, the system has been weaponized against him for his speech, for what he was talking about, what he represents, and for the amount of influence that he can have on the public. He's no different than you or I. I mean, eventually our voice, they're going to want to silence all of our voices who are speaking the truth.
And Jordan, let me ask you, we got to hit this break coming up here. I really want to see if I can hang with you all for one more segment. I want to be respectful of both of your time. In case we can't, you just said it right there. He has another hearing coming up very soon. The biggest piece of information I heard just now today for the first time is that they're going to allow some of this evidence to be admissible. I do know he's had previous problems with other defense attorneys. If there is a overall message, a website to go to, what is it that's needed right now?
Well, he's like the big battle is the legal battle right now. I mean, of course, we want everyone to keep him in prayer and support him and share his story. But we want people to go to freeschaeffer.com because there you can watch the music video that we did for the song that we did, that we're doing this press campaign built around the song. And 50% of all the song sales go directly to the foundation to pay for his legal defense. You can also make donations to the legal defense fund there at freeschaeffer.com. You can watch the documentaries that have been made about him, his life and his case. You can read his story. You can read his letters from prison, and you can get involved that way. There are petitions you can sign, but he's got a number of legal battles, legal fronts that it's very expensive to maintain the budget for paying for all this legal help. And that's what we really need is people to go to freeschaeffer.com and get involved by contributing to the Legal Defense Fund, share the song, share the story.
And Jordan and Angela, again, I want to be respectful of time. I know you're on a different coast from us. Can you all do at least one more segment with us? There's a few more follow-up. I know the Facebook wants to answer as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Awesome. I'll put them both back on hold. Hit this break right now. It is 9:34 in the morning. Be right back.
Yeah, I mean, without that, I don't want to say screwed, but knowing the legal system, it is what it is.
They said that the prosecution had all these hours of tape that basically proved nothing, and they had it all excluded except for one small part. Like, how do you do that? And that even that small part didn't prove what they were trying to say. It's just
I actually had that pulled up right before you asked that question because that was the biggest concern for me too. I thought there was going to be a complication with double jeopardy. Obviously, I'm wrong with that, but something was cited in the court case in the federal level where what actually, I want to say the audio tapes is actually what caused them to drop. And didn't Georgia say that the audio tape is actually what caused them to drop the charges at the state level? But it was those very same audio tapes that got him off at the state level that they refused to allow to be admissible at the.
And the thing is that the man should never have been tried in the first place, and that's why the state court threw it out. Then the feds came in and wanted to keep going because they want the guy silenced.
Yeah, see, and that strategy to me is so ineffective because I would never have known who Schaeffer Cox was if you didn't arrest the guy. If your whole purpose is to silence him, you did the exact opposite there. Now, it sucks for him that you got to turn the guy into a martyr. That is absolutely terrible. But if the purpose behind that was to stop his message, you definitely didn't do that, right?
They silence you for a little while, but if you can get it out. I mean, it seems to me like right now the Free Schaeffer Cox movement is only growing because more and more people are starting to see that, that what I say all the time is that the rules don't apply to the political elite. They're for you. The laws are to entrap you when you get out of line. They're not to keep them hedged in. They don't follow their own laws. There's a constitution that they don't even follow, except they expect you to follow it and for you to be law abiding, but they aren't. This is a clear example of the fact that they are not law abiding.
Here's what I might want to do, and I don't know what follow-up questions you have, but just to clarify that issue, can you ask them about the 2-for-1 thing? Unless you don't want to get into that. The 2-for-1 was the whole thing, like his militia had some. That's what originally caused them to go seize his cache of weapons or whatever. Is they had this whole documented plan of every one you hurt with me, I'm going to hurt 2 of you, or every one house you burn for me, I'm going to burn 2 of your houses, or whatever that was. I don't know how that came about. I kind of wanted to follow up by asking Angela. The biggest sticking point for me, legal background or whatever, it's no one cares about this possibly, is that idea of, bro, those audio tapes that were used to get him off in the state, what happened at that federal level? What did they say? I'm not finding anything.
Well, they had like Jordan said, they had a judge. They pulled out of retirement to do it, because no judge worth his salt would touch it.
But her being on the legal team, I just want to know what is the legal. Yeah. I don't know, the legalese, the rationale. He had to cite something. Right. I mean, he had to write an opinion that went up to a higher court that he said something. I want to know what in the world that something was.
I think that'll be a good.
Because if I'm not wrong, one of the audio tapes was a conversation between those two agent provocateurs that were saying, hey, if we mess around with this guy's kid, he might try and shoot us or something.
Yeah. Or he actually, one of them threatened, when he kept pushing, and they had the recordings of the guy trying to incite them to violence. He kept pushing, and he grabbed it. It was a friend of Schaeffer's. He grabbed him by the shirt and had a knife at his throat. This is the kind of pressure they're putting on people.
See, you can put a knife to my friend's throats all you want. If you start messing with my kids, man, when they come and took his kid away, I thought, bro.
And he tried to leave. He recognized that this is a dangerous situation. He tried to leave. They stole the battery out of his car and kidnapped him for 21 days, him and his family, basically. And so that the state, or not the big S state, the federal government could construct what they were going to do. They had time to plan how they were going to make this happen.
Angela, are you saying Angela's online right now? Are you on Facebook with us also? Is that the same Angela Clemons? I should have been talking to her off air. I think that's her. Oh, well, I can just talk to you now. Angela, by the way, you're here in our game plan. Is what we're going to come back on air with. I'm not going to shoot it out. Schaeffer Cox was not allowed to be played in federal trial. Well, yeah, that'd be too much for his character.
Yeah. And, I mean, by all accounts, everyone that knew him, the man is not a threat to anyone. Like, he's a good person. And you can hear him speak, and he's very inspirational. He's very charismatic, and that's scary to people who want to remain hidden and covert.
And see, all it takes is to put a few things together, say this guy is the head of a white nationalist militia group that's going to take over and start killing police officers and politicians, and then it doesn't matter what kind of evidence you have for it. Seriously, if you can get any publication to print that, you don't have to cite anything. You just say, well, look, they're reporting on it. Some part of it has to be true. It's already out there in the zeitgeist. It's established, and now.
That's one of the tactics that the media does all the time, is they will print something and then print a retraction a couple days later in the back of the paper. So people they think they have seen evidence or a story about it, but then they never see the retraction.
Or the old school text where if they don't even print retractions, they'll say something to media. Media will print that person said it. Then that same person will cite back to that same media source of what they said. Say, look, see the New York Times reported on it. You got to know it's true.
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't even know how long. Angela, if you're the same person, are we holding too long? Watch this be a totally different Angela Clemons. She's not even in there anymore. It's got to be, right? All right, so I'll come back in with that legal question. Did you ever follow up anything you want to follow up with the family stuff?
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe even plug one more time too when you're asking that question of just let them know, like, bro, the way they got that kid was by sending federal agents to the house. I've never heard of that done before. Plus, they use a no-knock warrant. I've never heard of a no-knock warrant dealing anything with children, specifically because of the child that you're dealing with. You don't want to scare them. Anyways, but yeah, I'll do the legal thing. Give it to you. We'll play it by ear. Yeah.
Spa9700.com. Just in time for Mother's Day. From the 6th Storm Team, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Hinkin for the East Tennessee Weather Network.
It's 61 at Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
Real news. Best news program in the history of this state, in the world.
Listen to what happened when I just called Mary in prison to question why they locked Schaeffer away in the communications management unit.
Is this call in reference to an inmate?
Yeah, are you the guy I just talked to?
No.
Okay, well, whoever I just talked to told me to F off and hang up. And I don't appreciate you guys behaving that way.
Okay, is this call in reference to an inmate, sir?
Yeah, it is in reference to an inmate. I want to know why Schaeffer Cox is in the CMU.
I can't answer that, sir.
Why can't you answer that?
Because it's not public knowledge.
So you don't pay any attention to who's being abused in your prison? You don't do anything about your fellow man getting abused with no due process? You just kind of ignore it for a paycheck? Is that what this is about?
We did not put the inmate there, sir. He puts himself there.
Don't give me that garbage. The inmate is a political prisoner. He didn't do anything to put himself there. You guys just put him there so you could keep him quiet and so you could isolate him because you're running a concentration camp just like the Germans in the 1940s.
Can I help you with any other questions, sir?
Yeah, I want Schaeffer Cox out of the CMU. I want you to quit making excuses. I want you to start loving your neighbor as yourself and quit being a tyrant. Quit working for terrorists.
I cannot authorize that, sir.
Well, maybe you better. Who can authorize that? Let's ask that question.
Washington, D.C.
What's that?
Washington, D.C.
So Washington, D.C. gave the order to put him in the CMU?
Yes.
Who in Washington, D.C.?
I have no idea.
So people call and give you orders and you enforce those orders, but you have no idea who?
Yeah, I wasn't here when he was put in there, sir.
And so there's no record of this? There's no paperwork? There's no due process?
No.
Do you sleep at night?
Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Henry. Can you bring the both on for me here, Raz? I'm joined by Angela Clemons. Jordan Page. Website, again, is freeschaeffer.com. Keep spelling this last, just in case everyone knows, Schaeffer. Let me give one more question to Angela here, and then I'll give it back to Sherry for a follow-up with Jordan. Angela, we heard that obviously the state charges were dropped. There's been an issue of audio recordings, and I want to say I heard one was between the two FBI provocateurs, allegedly, I suppose, having a conversation, saying something to the effect of, hey, let's go start messing around with this guy's kid. If we do that and we push him enough, he might actually start fighting back. He might actually start shooting us. Now, for some legal reason that I can't find, I'm trying to figure out if you're part of the legal team this where I'm hoping you can fill in the blanks for me. That audio was not allowed to be used at the federal level. What in the world is going on there?
That is correct. That was not allowed to be used. They tried several means to provoke him to violence. One was the threat of his children being taken away, and they even filed a false claim because he was also, Schaeffer was a foster father. So that was something that really hurt him. Another thing that was not allowed to be played is when the FBI was trying to provoke him to violence, and Schaeffer Cox repeated, "I'm not going to shoot it out," and he said it again, and because the FBI informant kind of was was quiet for a second, and Schaeffer said it twice. I'm not going to shoot it out. That video, that audio, and it was also a video, was not allowed to be played in the federal trial.
Wow. It's amazing to me. It's just amazing that, I often say that the laws aren't for the political elite. They're for us, because they show that when they want to break the law, they just step around it, use it to their advantage, and just don't, they don't think it applies to them. But on a different subject, what I wanted to ask you guys about, either Jordan or Angela, how is his family holding up? Because this is, whenever someone goes to prison, their family is left at home to kind of, pick up the pieces. And he had small children, correct, when he was put in prison. So how are they doing?
Well, he is able to talk to his children every week. He only gets 2 15-minute calls a week, and one of them he uses for his children. So he's very thankful that he gets to speak to them for 15 minutes a week. They are holding up as good as you can. They feel the emptiness. They know their father's not there. I think they have the sense that he is a great man that a lot of people love. His parents also, I just like to say they're doing as good as they can, considering their son is being illegally held and has never committed a crime in his life.
I think the important thing to remember too is that if this can happen to him, it can happen to any of us, because this was just a man who cared about freedom, who cared about his country, who got involved, and who spoke up when he saw the corruption.
Well, that's the thing. If you take Jordan's word for it, what he was really doing is maybe not working towards martyrdom, but certainly on the path of some sense of a calling. I can tell you right now, I find nothing, and I say this in all sincerity, I find nothing more evil in this world than the perversion of innocence. There's nothing worse to me. You're talking about trafficking around little children. Get out of everything that... Jordan, let me ask you as a follow-up, man. If you just joined us, Real News audience, we're talking the Schaeffer Cox story, a guy that was bold enough to try and start calling out some prominent figures in Alaska for drug trafficking, sex trafficking, all the like. People got word of it. Stuff started happening. The guy's now in jail. Here's one aspect, though, that, Jordan, if you could sort of expound upon for me. The whole planning of the 2-for-1 development, that seemed to be a major portion. I did a lot of reporting on the Alaskan... Is that even a word? Yeah, right. The Alaskan outlets that were reporting on it. It seems to be 60-70% of their coverage, at least the stuff I was looking at, was all about this 2-for-1. How did that whole thing develop?
I think actually that's probably a better question for Angela.
Gotcha.
The 2-for-1 plan was the FBI informant suggested that plan. The FBI informant suggested that they, for every 2 people that the government unjustly kills, that they take out 4. And so that was suggested only by the FBI informant. Schaeffer Cox repeatedly denied every ounce of violence. Every ounce of violence he denied. So,
yeah.
And Jordan, let me ask you a follow-up question then, man. I'm not trying to read too much into your psyche here, but I've listened to a few of your songs last night. Something about this story did something to touch you, kind of at an emotional core. And tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm not wrong, how deep did it touch you, and where's that coming from?
Well, Schaeffer and I have so much in common on so many levels, and when I read his book, it really spoke to me, and something that's really made an impact on me to know. I felt the hand of God on this. Is that these lyrics that were in this book that ended up in my hands last year were smuggled out of a former facility that he was in. And he was moved from that facility over to where he is now, and he was forced to leave all of his pages of writing behind in a common area. And someone, and we don't know who it was either a guard or a prisoner, found these papers, read them, and were so moved by them that they smuggled them out of the prison. And then they were put into the hands of Schaeffer's team, who then published them into a book. And I was given this book as a gift, and that's how we ended up in this conversation that we're having right now. I felt like there was just a divine providence guiding me, to be an advocate for Schaeffer Cox, to use my talents to write a song for him and to immortalize him, I guess, and to put this story out there in song. And it all just kind of came together. I actually had a chance to play the song for Schaeffer over the phone.
Oh, wow.
About 2 months ago. And, I sang it to him just with me and my guitar, in the 15-minute phone call that we had. And he told me that he could hear my children in the background laughing and playing and just making children noises. And he said that it reminded him, hearing the song and hearing my kids, reminded him that there is a real world out there beyond the cold, godless walls of that prison. And that, he had lost the ability to cry like years ago from this experience. It just hardened him. And but that listening to this song and hearing my kids' voices made him feel like he could cry again. And that, that kind of blew my mind and it was one of those ultimate moments that showed me that I was, doing the right thing and that there's no way that I could not be involved in this. And, a lot of people have said to me, you need to be careful talking about this. You need to be careful. And I'm just like, listen, if it was you that was stuck in a dungeon, wouldn't you want me to write a song about you? Wouldn't you want people speaking your name and not forgetting that you exist? And so, there's no end in sight for that. And, but there is light at the end of the tunnel for Schaeffer here with this resentencing coming up. And we need to create public support, and we need to fund these legal battles because that's how he's going to get out.
And as you just said that, too, the fallibility of my own flesh desperately wants to seek some retribution here. But I know that's not what it's about. What it's about at this point is bring this guy home, bring this guy back to his family. This is for both you and Angela, however you want to fill in the breaks. I'll end the segment here and let y'all get back to living your own lives. Fill our audience in one final time, websites, whatever they need to hit to fund this cause.
Well, you can go to freeschaeffer.com, FREESCHAEFFER. and .com, and that is where you can donate to the Legal Defense Fund. You can read the in-depth synopsis of Schaeffer's story. You can watch the video for The Persecution of Schaeffer Cox, which is the song that I wrote for him that we've been talking about, and there's a music video for it. You can buy his book. He has a new book coming out, Letters from Prison, and that's going to be a really moving piece that I encourage everyone to pick up. You can also go to jordanpagemusic.com, which is my website. You can hear all my music there, but Schaeffer's song and the video is on the homepage. And just keep Schaeffer in prayer, speak his name, reach out to elected officials in Indiana. We do discourage people from calling the prison because they punish Schaeffer when people call the prison. Again, torture is routine. All the same tactics that were going on in Guantanamo Bay happen at this CMU, and it's outside of congressional approval and oversight. So it's really a prison within a prison.
And again, Jordan and Angela, Jordan Page, Angela Clemons, one more time, website is freeschaeffer.com, FREESCHAEFFER.com. We'll post it all over our social media as well. In all sincerity, I can't thank you both enough for giving us some of your time this morning.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll talk to both of y'all very soon. Freeschaeffer.com, freeschaeffer.com. Incredible story there. Emotionally gripping story, if I'm being honest as well. 9:53, hit this break, come back with a quick bit of commentary from myself and Sherry Voluntary.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I had to get him off. I hate ending good guests with that last break because every single time what ends up happening.
Cut off, yeah.
And they're just at something that's like, they've just worked into something organically that's really cool. And then whether I want to or not, I have to interrupt him. It's just.
It's hard to have, there's so many details about this case. It's hard to do it in this format because you're interrupted so much and to get really into the depth of it. So I mean,
because you need to tell a whole story, right?
Yeah.
And every single time you're right on the edge, talk radio works really well for a lot of things, but stuff like this, it does not. Right as you're on the edge, like now I've emotionally gripped you. You're on board with me. Let's ride this train. You got to take a break, and then you come back in, and we're just haphazardly talking about who are we saving? Why are we saving? I forgot. It's been 5 minutes. What are we talking about again? Yeah, it's rough. It'll be better, by the way, for her Facebook people. Roz cuts up my podcast. It's iTunes, Google, all that stuff, all your podcasting, Real News Radio. This whole thing we'll send to Daniel, too. It's all commercial free, so it'll make more sense then, but, yeah.
And I'm hopefully, I think Jordan said he's going to come on my show, so we'll talk more in depth about this. And, you know, I tear up every time I talk about it because it's just, you know, this is a man who just was trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, and it really, I think a lot of our audience in East Tennessee here are the kind of people that care about what's going on in government, and a lot of them get involved. And if you got involved and saw something, would you speak up? Would you do that, or would you recognize when they threatened you and your family, hey, maybe I should shut up about this?
Yeah.
Or would you protect those children?
But I'm telling you, and you know this, Sherry, messing around with kids is not just the pinnacle of evil, it's the initiation rites of Luciferianism, even if you want to go that far. When he started, whenever he discovered that, a guy like Schaeffer probably knew right then, oh, dude, I might be staring into the eyes of actual Lucifer here, and I probably have to tell somebody. But in so doing, it's going to be, I'm telling you, man, you start messing around with people that have the power and the willingness to start messing around with kids, you are in a world of...
Yeah. And it's easy to be a sunshine patriot, just like your opening says, the sunshine patriot. It's easy to do it when it's easy. It's not when it comes down to you having to sacrifice for your beliefs.
Angela saying in Facebook, he never conspired. There's no evidence showing that. Jesse saying in Facebook, interesting comment here. I think goes on with a bit of what Sherry was getting slightly emotional about. You know, I mean, he says this proves government voting is a scam. If these officials are being paid by taxes, aka extortion, and not following what they're supposed to uphold, hence government is tyranny. Even the mafia has more heart than the government, and it's not supposed to be America's government. We're told it's not supposed to be the red, white, and blue, not America.
Yeah. And so many people. This is something I want to point out. And you know, really, I know a lot of people here are people of faith, and really question yourselves on this. Question yourselves if you held up to your own principles when this happened. When Muslims were being tortured in Guantanamo Bay, did you care about that? Now it's American citizens. He's being tortured in a prison in Terre Haute, or is it Indiana or Illinois?
Indiana, I think, yeah.
Terre Haute, Indiana. He's being tortured in there. The conditions are terrible. Can you imagine talking to your children 15 minutes a week? Like, these are awful things, and it was on a charge of conspiracy that the state court, they threw out their case. They said there's no evidence against this man, and the feds wanted him bad enough that they went after him, and they charged him with conspiracy, which can mean anything they want it to. So let me ask you that. In your heart of hearts, is that okay? It's not okay when they did it to the inmates at Guantanamo Bay, and it's certainly not okay when they're doing it to American citizens for being good citizens.
And we're doing it to them. We, American citizens, are doing it to them. We got to hit the end of the show. Sharon and I will continue on a little bit more on Facebook for those folks after we end. News, traffic, weather, all that. Glenn Beck coming up next. This has been Real News. We'll be back tomorrow doing it big.
Look, Sherry, I'll say this same thing for me is the same thing why people initially write off a lot of conspiracy theories, right? Like 9/11, okay? I'm not one to believe in 9/11 conspiracy theories, fine. The point I'm making, though, is a lot of people will never even delve into that world because they don't want to believe that it's potential that their American government has that much power. They don't want to believe that there is a potential for any overarching entity to have that much power or control over their lives.
And to me, that proves that you know it's true already.
Well, sure.
And the actual conspiracy may not be true, but that you know that it's true. That there are
one of your Bluetooth winners. Is
Oh yeah. Hey. How you doing?
Tamara.
Oh.
How you doing?
Tamara. How do you say it?
Tamara.
Tamara. I say it every time.
I'm gonna help her hook up the Bluetooth.
You don't know how to do that?
I know how to do it.
Do you?
Yes, I have one. I can do it.
How do you put it in parry mode?
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll figure it out though. It'll be fine.
You once you plug it in, Russ, hold down the blue call button for I don't know 5 seconds. You'll start seeing a red and blue light blink back and forth.
This one?
Yeah, and then just pull up the Bluetooth on her phone.
It'll pair.
Yeah, and if you
So I'm gonna plug in. And I'm gonna hold this down.
Yeah, just plug it in and then you can hold down.
Yeah.
Either one. Yeah. Hold it down 5-10 seconds. You'll start seeing the blue and red lights, and then at that point, go into her phone, pull up Bluetooth. It should be
And
there.
then program it
Yeah,
to her radio.
You got it.
All right, Maddie.
No, what I was saying is I think that we all know that the government is corrupt. It's a matter of looking at ourselves actually and saying, how much of this am I willing to allow? Because the onus is on us. When we know that it's going on and we don't speak up, we're allowing it to happen. And I know plenty of people who, when it was happening to Muslims, they did not care. They don't care about waterboarding. They think it's perfectly okay. Like there's terrible things that they do. And most of those people, they've already admitted, this was a big story years ago. They've already admitted that most of the people in Guantanamo, they didn't have anything on.
No, of course not. No.
That now they can't release them because they're radicalized and they're afraid they'll commit terrorist acts. They turned them into terrorists.
Here's the optic problem that a lot of these stories have, primarily with Republican base. It's near impossible to convince any conservative. I personally believe the vast overwhelming majority of them are good folks. We don't agree on that. Nevertheless, follow along for a second. What I'm saying is it's near impossible optic to convince them of police officers. Now extrapolate that into an FBI agent, CIA involvement, NSA. I don't know who's all involved in this stuff, man. If what we're pitching is, which is very true, if what's being pitched is, dude, literally the FBI went after a single individual in Alaska for trying to out something, immediately 95% of the population is like, BS, get out of here with that. But if it's true, 95% should not be. Someone said in Facebook a second ago it's a humanitarian issue.
Yeah.
International communities, dude, like if there's any aspect of this that is actually going on, this guy was not charged or something, he's currently being tortured by other Americans, yeah, bro, make it an international issue.
If North Korea was doing that, if Russia was doing that, that would be the narrative that you heard every day. You'd hear about this political prisoner. But because it's an American citizen, and I'm responsible for my neighbor, and Schaeffer Cox is my neighbor. He's right in my country. I can't do something about somebody in Russia, but I can try and do something about someone here. So, for you said it, not free-thinking people who are tied to political parties and don't want to look at the truth of the terrible acts that are committed in their name. Like, this is a situation, too, where we've had Senate hearings, and Republicans said this is deplorable, and Democrats said this is deplorable, and the man is still in prison.
Yeah.
These are U.S. senators.
Man, we should have asked Angela Jordan. That's one of the questions I had down, too. If you're the Angela that was online, I don't know if you are, if anybody knows in Facebook, has anyone tried to bring this to Trump yet?
I don't know.
Maybe they don't.
It's incredibly difficult to get these kinds of things before a president, before a governor even.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
And especially when you've got factions in the federal government who are saying, don't come here.
Right.
Like, there are factions, and they kind of have to work around each other and things. So, that might be something.
I know this is a cynical way to look at it, but I'm looking at it from if I was a Republican strategist right now, Trump is, if nothing else, he is constantly and continually trying to ingratiate himself to the Christian right. If I'm someone working for Schaeffer right now, I'm thinking, let's take this to Trump. Talk about saving a Christian man, bringing him a Christian man that was trying to expose pedophilia, sex trafficking, and drug trafficking, and bring him back to his son. Kim Kardashian walked herself up there, and she got something done. If you're trying to ingratiate yourself to the Christian right before another election, bro, get on them pardons. You know what I mean? For people that actually need to be pardoned.
And then, after you do that, after you fight for this Christian man, then recognize that it's not okay to do to anyone.
Yeah.
Whether they're Christian, Muslim, atheist, Buddhist, whatever it is, we need to be consistent, because if you're going to be a principled person, those principles have to apply to everyone, not just the people that are on your team or the people that you like. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen myself.
Principles have to apply to everyone, not just the people that are on duty.
I was clipping a little bit. A few White House openings, please pray. Christopher Buzz, let us for the first down. Yeah.
If it can happen to him, it can happen to any of us. I mean, you know, I wonder about that sometimes. What would I do if someone pressured me to shut my big mouth? And I'm not, you know, I don't know anything about trafficking rings of any kind in this area. But
I would like to say, speaking with you now, I would have the fortitude to do what Schaeffer did, but I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10 I would have made the opposite decision.
Yeah. It's especially when you're a parent and you look at those big eyes of your little kid and you worry about their safety.
Right.
That's a hard thing to do. It really is.
Hey man, look, her Facebook folks, I started this program called Real News, whatever. I started with another guy named David Shine Thompson, and from the very first day, we've always said, the thing, I personally believe, the thing that is going to take down whoever this immoral, corrupt, Luciferian elite thing is, I'm not trying to get too conspiratorial, but, bro, it's like every single one of them mess around with kids. Like, they all mess around with kids, and that is something that not a single PC culture anywhere is going to tolerate. I'm telling you, man. I'm kind of wondering, too, what this guy with this, what movement Schaeffer started and is continuing. Once we get him out of here, man, we need to figure out a way to get him back on the ground running, because I want to see these people pay. I know it's not the right perspective. I know, I get it. I'm boiling up a little bit, man.
Well, they should, and they never will. That probably will never happen. I mean, look at the agents that are still out there that did everything they were doing here in Ruby Ridge. Look at all they did at Waco. There's some great programs on the Scott Horton show about Waco, and the narrative that you were given is completely wrong. Everything about it was a lie. Every single thing was a lie. It was the same case way here. Texas CPS had investigated them several times, and there's nothing there. They haven't done anything. The kids are not being abused. And that's what they used to go in there and murder those people. They burnt them alive, men, women, and children, and that is your government. And if you allow that to happen and think that it's okay because it's not you, it's some weirdo cult out there, then they're coming for you next. Your silence will not save you.
Well, but
do not believe that.
But that's what it is for most people. You just said it. What it is for most people that hear the story, it's the same thing they think about the Syrian war or the Yemen war or anything else. It's off in Alaska. Like, it's off in the next state over. I don't own 2,000 guns, and I'm not forming a militia, so it's never going to be me.
Right. I didn't do anything wrong. This guy must have, and this is the problem with the narrative that police are always the good guys. Because the FBI is a police agency. It's the top police agency in the country, and they are corrupt. Their founding was corrupt. They're corrupt then. They're corrupt now. They poisoned the bathtub gin and murdered people during Prohibition. So I'm telling you, that corruption follows down, and some of it is just the corruption of silence, of saying, I'm not going to speak out because it's personally, we just said, as a police officer, I could lose my job. I'm threatened. My family could lose its income. Those kinds of things happen, and that is another kind of corruption. So we have to speak out about these things, and it's not because I think police officers are bad people. I think that job puts you in a vile position to prey on your fellow man for money and to be the violent arm of politicians who have a different agenda than what's good for you or I. So that's my contention with police. And it's hard to stand up against those things, but we have to start doing it. We have to do the hard work. We have to be willing for people to yell at us and to not like us, because either truth matters or it doesn't. Consistency matters or it doesn't. Principles matter or they don't. You get to decide that in your own life.
Aaron keeps hitting us at Facebook, and it's in your town too. Love your neighbors in your town, in your country, in your state. She just hit us with Hebrews 13:3. Remember your brother in bonds. And I'm telling you, man, they betray. Yeah, Jesse just said they betray their own oath by upholding unjust laws. Even back to what Aaron was saying, I'm not trying to say that Christians have kind of let this down, but I will say most certainly. I don't know. I think Christians have done a major disservice, not just in not speaking on this topic, not researching it properly. And let's be real, y'all. I don't know what y'all feel about religion, Father. Christians control a lot of stuff in this country. There's what, 75% of us, 78% of us are some type of professed evangelicals. We control a lot of stuff. There's a lot of us that have power.
Every president that has ever sat in the office has proclaimed Christianity. Every single one. And yet, more corruption every year. Like, so that's something we really just have to keep hitting. Aaron said in there that Trump's been alerted hundreds of times.
Yeah.
It's on us because the political class does not move unless they have to because they're worried about their behinds from the people.
Or unless they have some type of political capital they can gain out of it, which is why I was skeptically spinning it the way I was with Trump. If he has something to gain out of it, I know that's a very cynical thing to say. Skeptical wasn't the word. It's a very, very cynical thing to say. But in something like this, I'm always looking for the best way to actually be effective in your strategy. And I know that's not the best way to do it, but goodness, man, if we get Trump tweeting about anything like this just once.
And cynicism doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, I'm cynical about the government because they always have a different agenda. Power, that kind of power over people gives them an agenda. And look, they are incentivized in this case to keep that man quiet because they were making money off of these things. This is exactly the same kind of story as it was when the CIA injected crack into black communities in this country. It was because they were making money off of it. It's the same reason we're protecting poppy fields in Afghanistan. There are enough dots to be connected. And what I want to say to fellow Christians out there is that it's not about a political party. It's not about our country because those are the things of men. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And that standard is truth and what our God tells us. And so if that comes after your political beliefs, that's idolatry. And I'm sorry, you can search your own heart. Are you putting political beliefs above what's right? Because it's not about, well, we have to stay in, we talked about this yesterday, we have to stay in the war in Yemen because of blah, blah, blah. You know, we have to keep supporting that. That's not a Christian position. We shouldn't be there. We're starving children in Yemen right now with our money, and that's not okay. And we need to be speaking up about it as Christians, because if you believe in what the Bible says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, there's no caveats on that. That doesn't mean because they're in Yemen, they don't get the same
Angela,
consideration.
If you're still in here, yeah, I think you are. Or anybody that's followed the story, how much of this do you think has to do with just nobody knowing? I think I played my cards a little bit too early. I have no idea what I'm saying on air sometimes, and I might have said this on air that I didn't know about this. I think I started the show today. I said at the 7 o'clock hour in the intro, I said I didn't realize about this story until I talked to you yesterday and Richard did this. And I do this for 3 hours a day for 5 days a week for a couple of years now. Angela, whoever, how much of this problem is that just no one knows? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and even if you do know, how many people have researched long enough to get past the initial threshold of, because I'm sure a lot of people that jump into this are thinking, well, I've read the single report, guy's guilty, sorry.
Right, or they hear sex trafficking, they go, it's just a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's programs like this, like even when Michael called in about Recode, the major news outlets in this city didn't cover that.
Oh, yeah.
They are keeping silence. They have a conspiracy of silence when it comes to the things that we need to know. I don't need to know about what's going on necessarily with every kidnapping that goes on in the country. What I need to know about is what's going on in my backyard, what politicians are doing, and they are doing us a disservice. And it's shows like this one and others that are actually getting important information out. And this is important on a grander scale because it has to do with our rights, our very rights in this country, and giving that away. And this is part of why they can do it to American citizens, is because y'all allowed it to be done in Guantanamo. We allowed that. We said, yeah, it's okay. Have this prison that's outside. Have these FISA courts that 99.999% of warrants get through secretly. Like, we are saying those things are okay when we want to fight the war on terror, whatever that means, and we're all going to be terrorists for speaking out.
See, this is why I like the new age. I know I crack on Facebook all the time, and I say it's the ghetto of the internet, which I still believe, but I need to embrace the singularity for the sole reason of we are spoiled for choice. There is the intellectual dark web right now is saturated with such insanely good content, and honestly, the worst version that I find in that realm is better than anything I've ever been exposed to in whatever mainstream is concerned. You know what I mean? And I think if the more stuff like this starts happening, potentially, hopefully, what is it? It takes, I believe a story like this, it would take one viral sensation. Right. It would take a single viral sensation, and even if it doesn't draw attention to Schaeffer Cox to begin with, if it draws attention to, oh, by the way, an American citizen is being tortured in America by other Americans, for what reason? For really nothing. We got to do something about that.
Right. Also, Ross Ulbricht, he was accused of being the Dread Pirate Roberts and the Silk Road. He was railroaded as well. That's another political prisoner that is sitting in jail for something he didn't do, and they did the similar tactics. They withheld evidence, all these sorts of things. So this is happening right now as we speak. And if we're going to turn our eyes from it, then we might as well just get in the boxcar now, because that's where that kind of thing goes. I know people don't want to believe it of their own government, but we have to hold them accountable. And we have to do it even if it's at our own party's expense. Your party doesn't matter. Rights matter. Principles matter. Ethics, morals matter. And if you're going to turn a blind eye to that, then you're saying that anything they want to do is okay. Anything they want to do to anybody. And it's just such a self-defeating. You win a political argument now, or a political victory, and you lose your freedom, and it's not worth it. Lose those battles if you have to, but don't give up your freedoms.
Well, nobody cares giving up a little bit of liberty for that slight ounce more of luxury in their lives. You know what I mean? Here's what I take away from. First and foremost, get this guy back to his family. Secondly, bro, we got to clean this stuff up at some point. Hey, Facebook, I'm going to cut promos and do all the things. If any of my people are in there, they already know your contacts and stuff, yeah? Share your Voluntary Tuesdays, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
Angela,
you for having me again.
if you're still in here, appreciate you so much for your time today. I'll cut up interviews and throw it up on our YouTube and iTunes and all that stuff. Angela, reach out to me on the Real News if you want any of that, this cut, whatever else. We'll make it all happen. Anything I forget?
I don't think so.
You love Trump now?
No.
She said it, not me. She said it off air. Y'all didn't hear it.
I didn't say that.
She told me. I got the email to prove it. All right, y'all. Facebook, I love you. Best audience in the nation. We'll see you tomorrow.